Chapter 2903. Fu Lu, you're possessed. You're too right, too unimaginable. Hearing this, Zi Ming's face turned cold. She put away her previous gentleness and scolded. Who gave you the guts to say such disrespectful words? If not for the fact that you've been serving Zai and are a loyal servant, I would have thrown you into prison today and taken your life. Humph, with this old servant's age, why would I be afraid of prison? Even if Miss wants this old servant's life right now, this old servant won't even frown. Fu Lu didn't care about anything else and shouted, This old servant will risk my life to speak up for young Master Zai. I will also speak out about the things that many people in Huta village are angry about but don't dare to speak out. I will let others know that our Huta village is also wise. Shut up. Do you really think I don't dare to touch you? Zi Ming was furious. If you dare to touch young Master Zai, then you naturally dare to kill this old servant. Fu Lu shouted, throwing caution to the wind. You wait. Quickly seal this old man's mouth and drag him out. Zi Ming pointed at the guards beside her and said, Now that Zai's sacrificial period has just passed, let him spout nonsense here. The other shaman villages still have elders here. If they hear this, wouldn't it be a great loss to our Huta village's dignity? Yes, a few attendants hurried forward and restrained Fu Lu. Fu Lu struggled, his face flushed red. Unfortunately, he couldn't say another word. Miss, then two attendants bowed and begged. Fu Lu is young Master Zai's old servant. Miss, please, for young Master's sake, for the sake of young Master's hard work, just throw him into prison and let him spend the rest of his life in prison. Humph, Zi Ming sneered. This kind of old servant is the most hateful. Just because he's a little old, he takes advantage of his seniority and casually orders people around. Usually it's fine, but now is the crucial time. How can we let his groundless nonsense destroy the stability of our Huta village? Miss, everyone begged. Fu Lu saw an old friend and was momentarily blinded. Wasn't he fine just now? If he was respectful to the young miss, was waiting here obediently? Please be merciful, miss. Alas. Zi Ming sighed and waved his hand. Put him down first. There's no need to throw him into the blood prison. Let him calm down and think. Sometimes, seeing is believing. The guards were overjoyed and hurriedly said in unison, Thank you for your kindness, miss. You may leave. Send a few people to report to the back Earth Palace. Young Master Xiao will immediately go and kowtow to G-Man, tell him what happened in the Netherworld Eye. Zi Ming waved his hand and instructed. Yes. The guards glanced at each other, then split into two groups. One group took Fu Lu away, while the other quickly walked out of the hall. Sigh, let's go, young Master Xiao. Zi Ming said apologetically, this concubine really didn't expect. It's fine, Xiaohua said with a smile. Others may not know, but how could this Xiao not know? This concubine knows that young master understands, but this Fu Lu was still fine just now. These days he was also normal. I didn't expect that when he saw young master, he would suddenly lose his composure. Zi Ming nodded and replied, I'm afraid it's because Miss Zi Ming lost her composure first. Fu Lu saw something strange. Xiao Hua was a bystander, so he naturally saw it clearly. Yes, it should be so. Zi Ming also knew that his joy just now made Fu Lu suspicious. Perhaps he had misunderstood. But the problem is, Fu Lu's thoughts are also the thoughts of some people in the back Earth stronghold. This is... Xiao Hua was slightly stunned, but soon understood. Xiao Hua was brought back by Zi Ming, but Zi Yi accompanied him into the Netherworld Eye. If the karma of Zi Yi and Xiao Hua being old friends was removed, no matter what, it was impossible. Anyone who was interested in guessing would draw a lot of reasons for Zi Ye's death. Even with G-Man's identity, it would be difficult to explain. Alas, gossip is a fearful thing. Xiao Hua sighed. What else could he say? It was something that didn't exist in the first place, but it could still be insinuated out of thin air. This kind of action was definitely not something Xiao Hua could imagine. This concubine didn't think it through enough. Zi Ming smiled bitterly. I only wanted to finish everything before lighting the soul-falling lamp. Right now, it has indeed caused a lot of rumors. If this concubine had known earlier, she would have just told the truth. Yes, a lie is often made up for by 10 or even 100 lies. Many times, it's better not to tell the truth. Xiao Hua sighed. Let's go. G-Man has already waited for dozens of days. Midnight sacrifice has long passed. It's time to let everyone know about the situation inside the Netherworld Eye. As Ziming spoke, he extended his hand and took out the Netherworld bamboo from the soul nest and handed it to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua took the Netherworld bamboo and carefully put it into his storage bag. He didn't dare to casually throw it into the space. Xiao Mao and the others? Xiao Hua only now asked. Young Master Xiao and the others are also near the back Earth Hall. Ziming explained. Ziye's sacrifice ceremony was very grand. The witch elders and G-Man of my back Earth villages also came. The Shibai village also sent their elders. This is an excellent opportunity. Young Master Xiao is using his connections to establish a relationship with many witch elders and G-Man. Oh, he has this ability? Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows. Young Master Zhao's strength may not be comparable to yours, but in this aspect, he is indeed stronger than you. If you want to establish your own sect, you'll have to learn from them. Ziming replied with a smile. Xiao Hua smiled faintly. There was no jealousy in his heart. Everyone was different, and he had always known that he didn't have the bearing of a leader. Moreover, he had never had the goal of becoming the master of a region. It would be best if he could establish the fortune gate, but if he couldn't, he wouldn't force it. Oh, so that means Xiao Mao should have found out about his origin? After all, the Shibai village's elders are here, and there are so many witch elders and G-Man. Xiao Hua changed the topic. Ziming smiled bitterly and shook his head, answering, Xiao Mao's matter is not suitable to be publicized in my back Earth village. Moreover, his identity is still a mystery even now. I have already probed the Shibai village's elder, and she doesn't seem to have any impression of Xiao Mao. Of course, I can't rule out the possibility that she is pretending. After all, as young master said, Yi Yu attacked Xiao Mao that night. The Shibai village's elders should know something. Forget it, rice has to be eaten one bite at a time. Things have to be done step by step. Xiao Hua understood the difficulty of Xiao Mao's origin and sighed. With your back Earth village's support and the millet seed. Oh right. Ziming, with so many witch villages G-Man and witch elders here, it is a good opportunity to send out the millet seed. Xiao Hua suddenly thought of the millet seed and quickly asked. Hearing Xiao Hua's words, Ziming's heart felt warm for no reason. That's right, the gathering of these witch elders and G-Man was indeed a good opportunity. Although Xiao Mao didn't reveal his origin, he got to know a lot of influential people. It was extremely important for Xiao Mao's future development in Meng Mountains. As for Xiao Hua, when he thought of these influential people, all he could think of was the millet seed. He wanted to give them the millet seed and let them bring it back to their witch villages, so that these millet seed could be planted in the mountains and rivers of Meng Mountains as soon as possible, allowing those natives who were on the verge of starving to death to escape from their dangerous situation. Of course, Xiao Mao also had the millet seed, but Ziming knew that Xiao Mao would never give it to these witch elders and G-Man for free. There must be some kind of transaction, some kind of price. As for Xiao Hua, the initiator of all this, he didn't ask for anything in return, not even a little bit of reputation. Sigh, comparing people. Why is there such a big difference? Ziming couldn't help but sigh, but then she became sad again. That's right, not to mention Xiao Mao, what was so good about her? If she had to give the millet seed to these G-Man, she would have some thoughts in her heart. Suddenly, Ziming understood why she couldn't help but have a deep impression of this man when she first saw him, and couldn't help but want to befriend him. Although this man's appearance was very ordinary, but his heart was extremely great, and his heart was also very broad. He could put all the common people in Xiaoyu continent, and the millions of natives in Meng Mountains in his heart. Ziming. Seeing Ziming was a little absent-minded, Xiao Hua didn't know that she was thinking so much, and asked curiously, those millet seed. Xiao Lang. Ziming couldn't hold back the fire in her heart, and said in a low voice. Although the millet seed is very important, but I'm still not out of danger, and I can't break through the last layer of paper with G-Man. Therefore, the millet seed is also something I can rely on. Oh, is that so? How could Xiao Hua not know what Ziming was thinking? He sighed and asked, is it your idea, or Xiao Mao's idea? I won't hide it from Xiao Lang. It's our idea. Ziming answered very calmly. The sooner the better. Many people will starve to death every day. Xiaohua didn't care about the change in the way Ziming addressed him. Thinking about what he saw when he came to Hutu's stronghold, he couldn't help but feel a little anxious. But looking at Ziming's apologetic face, he hurriedly said, "Of course, it depends on you. I know that this matter is related to the future of you and Xiao Mao, so I will listen to your arrangements." Xiao Lang, Ziming's heart softened, and she wanted to stretch out her hand to pull Xiaohua, but just as she stretched out half an inch, her face turned red, and she hurriedly retracted her hand. "Oh, I finally understand." Xiaohua didn't seem to notice Ziming's action, and at this moment, he suddenly raised his eyes and looked at the palace in the distance, and suddenly said. Ziming was slightly surprised, and asked curiously, "What's wrong? What did you understand?" "Hee, you just said that G-Man was waiting for me to report to him, and I was a little surprised. Weren't you also in the netherworld eye? So, you didn't report to G-Man at all. Because you and G-Man only have a kind of tacit understanding, a tacit understanding that can't be made clear." Chapter 2904. That's right. Especially now. Ziming's eyes were filled with worry. Ziyan died in my hands, and G-Man still hasn't received the news. I've already sent my trusted men to intercept Ziyan's subordinates outside Huta village. Once they find them, they'll kill them immediately. We just don't want G-Man to know the truth before Elder Wu returns. If she were to fall out with us, all of us would die without a burial ground. Xiaohua wasn't good at scheming, so he couldn't sense the dangers involved. But when he heard Ziming's words, he was also shocked. He said in a low voice, "Ziming, I think your Huta stronghold's G-Man is very benevolent. He can't be as sinister as you think, right? Besides, Ziyan was possessed by a demon, and G-Man might not be? Why don't you just tell her? One shouldn't have the intention to harm others, but one should always guard against others. Xiaohua, facing G-Man, I'm at a disadvantage, so I don't dare to not plan. Even if building Ziya's cenotaph a few days ago was a very good opportunity, with G-Man and Elder Wu appearing, if this concubine were to tell them about Ziyan's matter in front of so many people, it would be a form of protection for this concubine. But I hesitated for a long time, and didn't dare to say it in front of G-Man, for fear that I'll embarrass her and make her angry. Without Elder Wu, without Xiaohua by my side, I don't dare to make a move." Ziming said earnestly. "Hiding like this won't do." Xiaohua understood Ziming's thoughts and nodded slightly, expressing his agreement. "Hee, Xiaohua, don't scold me." Ziming laughed. "Midnight's memorial ceremony isn't the most solemn. Not all of G-Man and Elder Wu from Shibai village and its subordinate Wu village will come. When Ziming lights up the soul-falling lamp, that will be the most solemn ceremony. At that time, Xiaohua and I will take out the seed. That will be the best time." At this point, Ziming let out a sad laugh and continued, "Of course, if I can't wait until Grandmaster Wu comes back, then, when I'm executed, it will be a grand ceremony as well. The ceremony will be even more grand than midnight. G-Man will definitely take out the seeds and distribute them to Meng Mountains. Xiaolang, don't worry, the people of Meng Mountains will remember Reverend Zhao's kindness." Ziming. Xiaohua's heart was slightly sour when he heard this. He couldn't help but look at this woman with concern. Whether it was her heart or her shoulders, she must have seen Midnight's sacrifice and easily thought of her own death. "It's all right. Xiaolang, it's actually this concubine's fault for not thinking things through and bringing Xiaolang and the others into danger." Ziming forced a smile and said, "However, to be able to meet an extraordinary person like Xiaolang and Taoist Xiao in this world, I can die without regrets. Things haven't reached that stage yet. We haven't decided whether G-Man is a friend or a foe yet. There's still a possibility that Elder Wu will return. Yes, there is also Xiaolang accompanying this concubine." Ziming said shyly at this time, and her voice was very soft, for fear of being heard by others. However, if she were to ask Ziming to transmit his voice, she would not be willing to do so. Although such sweet words could not make one feel intoxicated, listening to each and every word made her feel happy in life. In her life, it was very rare for her to have the opportunity to say such sweet words, and it was also very rare for her to meet a man like Xiaohua who could make her feel emotional. "Yes, this Xiao is by your side." Xiaohua smiled faintly and said while looking into the distance, As long as this Xiao has one breath left, I will definitely not let that old witch hurt a single hair on your head. Old witch? Hee hee. Ziming heard this and smiled. The fear from before had long disappeared. She said, Xiao Lang, this old witch reminds this concubine of a childhood story. However, when she said this, Ziming was somewhat sad. She raised her head and said, let's go, sooner or later we will have to face it. Perhaps today is an opportunity. The Empress Earth Palace was a magnificent palace. It was much bigger than any palace Xiaohua had seen before. Its majestic aura could be seen from far away. If it were not for the beast heads and ghost faces that could be seen from time to time, Xiaohua would almost think that this was the foundation of some great Xiuzhen sect. Moreover, from far away, there were spirit warriors wearing armor standing on both sides. They held strange weapons in their hands that looked like iron halberds and bronze spears. They stood valiantly and proudly under the countless flags. That imposing manner was really like one man holding back 10,000 men. Even when Xiaohua walked through these spirit warriors and arrived in front of the main hall's door, the pressure from the carved beams and painted pillars made Xiaohua feel as if he could not breathe. Xiaohua had to admit from the bottom of his heart that the Empress Earth stronghold, which had been passed down for hundreds of thousands or even millions of years, was not something he could face directly. Without waiting for Xiaohua to step onto the steps in front of the palace door, a majestic shout resounded from above his head. Immediately after, that voice was transmitted directly into the palace hall. This shout was spoken with perfect articulation. Although Xiaohua could hear it clearly, he didn't understand what it meant. However, according to his thoughts, it should be similar to a report. Sure enough, when Xiaohua followed Ziming to the side of the steps to the hall's door, a voice came from inside again. A guard at the door respectfully said, G-Man invites the state of Xi's Imperial Thunder School, Xiaohua, to enter the Empress Earth Palace for an audience. Many thanks, G-Man. Xiaohua did not know how to reply, and only casually bowed in response. That guard stepped aside and allowed Xiaohua to enter. Xiaohua followed Ziming into the Empress Earth Palace. Although he was mentally prepared like before, when he saw the scene in front of him, he still could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. He did not dare to use his divine thought or Buddhist awareness to explore, but he could only see with his naked eyes. Not to mention the hundreds of huge bone pillars, which stood there eerily, with black or green brilliance flashing on each of the pillars. When the brilliance flashed, some huge nether beasts showed their ferocious faces. Not to mention the blood-red color on the roof of the palace, which could be seen with the naked eye. He could see layers of blood waves rushing toward his face. The indistinct, seemingly real waves of the netherworld sea also rushed into his ears, and a feeling of fear arose spontaneously. Not to mention that on the hall's surface, countless bones and skeletons were scattered all over. Among these bones, a mournful and sorrowful sound like a chilly wind blew in all directions, and a chilling feeling was also born in an instant. At a glance, the entire hall seemed to be boundless. Inside the hall, all kinds of ghostly wails and howls, the sound of the netherworld wind was loud, and a kind of feeling of being in the depths of the netherworld was enough to make Xiaohua look askance. Young Master Xiao, follow this concubine. At this time, Ziming also had a respectful expression, and said solemnly, the Empress Earth Palace of my Empress Earth stronghold is a huge soul formation. Any swordsman or cultivator who does not understand will be attacked if they rashly use their divine sense to explore. Moreover, the more guilty a person is, the more inner demons will be born when they enter the Empress Earth Palace. Young Master Xiao is a magnanimous person. You only need to restrain your heart and not look too much. Yes, this Xiao understands. Xiaohua nodded. Looking at the direction Ziming was walking, he also slightly quickened his pace and changed direction. Sure enough, in an instant, that kind of oppressive momentum and ferocious intent was reduced by a lot. However, the situation inside the hall was still unclear. There was only a flickering ghostly shadow, and a cold wind blew in all directions. It was as if they had walked into an abandoned graveyard in the wilderness. Even a cultivator like Xiaohua could clearly feel that those ghostly shadows that appeared in front of and behind him at any time were not fake. Perhaps if he was a little bit negligent, those ghostly claws and sharp teeth could possibly bite him. Could this be the legendary opening gambit? Xiaohua shrunk his neck and looked helplessly at Ziming, who was leading the way. He was truly afraid that he would make a fool of himself if he didn't follow Ziming. After walking for about half a cup of tea's time, a green light suddenly flashed in front of Xiaohua's eyes, as if a layer of fog had been cut off. With a burst of light and shadow, a huge palace appeared in front of Xianxia. In addition to the huge pillars that he saw before, there were many light green decorations. However, Xianxia only glanced at these decorations for a moment before his eyes stopped at the top of the palace. There was a 2-story high platform above. On the top level, there was only a light green table, and no one was sitting on it. The lower level was slightly smaller, and the table was also bright green. Behind the table was the Empress Earth Stockade's G-Man. When Xianxia looked below G-Man, it was like an ordinary Dao sect cultivator's banquet. There were also rows of tables, and behind each table sat a person. These people were either male or female, old or young. However, most of them were unfamiliar to Xianxia. Only a small portion of them were the Empress Earth Stronghold elders that Xianxia had met before entering the Netherworld path. As for Xiao Mao, Li Zongbao, and Fairy Hongxia, the 3 of them sat at the very bottom. Moreover, the 3 of them sat at the same table. Boy greets G-Man. Ziming walked a few quick steps. It was rather strange. They were clearly still very far away, but Ziming's few steps seemed to be faster than running. Very quickly, he neared the crowd. Xiaohua naturally didn't dare to be negligent. He followed closely behind Ziming and hurriedly said, "Junior Xiaohua greets G-Man. Please stand up." At this moment, G-Man no longer had the benevolence from before in the care pavilion. In its place was a kind of grace and pressure. He raised his hand and said indifferently, "Thank you, G-Man," Ziming said as he straightened his body. Xiaohua didn't reply and straightened his chest. "How dare you?" Right in front of Xiaohua, less than 2 zhong away, under the white bone pillar, a slightly thin and small god shouted, "G-Man's orders, you dare to not return the courtesy? You dare to offend G-Man? Return the courtesy?" Xiaohua was slightly stunned. After pondering for a moment, he bowed and said, "Thank you, G-Man." No matter." G-Man's face hung a light smile. "Cultivators from the country of Xi are my Empress Earth Stronghold's distinguished guests. Not knowing my Empress Earth Stronghold's etiquette can't be considered as offending." This. Xiaohua indeed scratched his head. He raised his voice and said, "Junior is a cultivator and has always pursued freedom. How would I know etiquette? If G-Man has some rules here, please inform me in advance." Chapter 2905. It's all Boy's fault. Ziming says with a smile, "When we met G-Man, we didn't need any etiquette. Boy was careless. Today, we came to Ho-Tu Palace in a hurry and didn't warn Xiaohua." Nonsense. The guard doesn't dare to talk to Ziming, but sneers at Xiaohua. The cultivators from the Dao sect were all well-educated and reasonable. How come they don't know etiquette when they come to you? Is this how the disciples of your Imperial Thunder sect are? Ziming frowns and looks at the guard with displeasure. She didn't expect the guard to make things difficult for her. She mutters in her heart, not knowing if this was G-Man's idea. Hearing this, Xiaohua sneers and says, "That's right. I don't know the etiquette of Meng Mountain. Also, I am a rogue cultivator. I don't even know the etiquette of the Imperial Thunder sect. When I set the etiquette in the future, I will let you know what etiquette is." Big. The guard takes a step forward and is about to get angry. G-Man says indifferently, "Qing Yan, I already said that Xiaohua is my Ho-Tu Stronghold's honored guest. He also saved Mo Han from the Netherworld Eye. He can be considered my Ho-Tu Stronghold's benefactor. Although you are the law enforcer and in charge of all the laws in my Ho-Tu Stronghold, this kind of etiquette negligence shouldn't be a big deal, right?" "Yes, subordinate understands." The guard quickly lowers his head and stands under the bone pillar, ignoring Xiaohua. Damn it, this is clearly a show of strength. Xiaohua understood, and he felt disdain in his heart. Looks like Ziming is not worried about nothingness. This G-Man really has some problems. Xiaohua at this moment, G-Man speaks again and asks straightforwardly, "I'm sure you know why I called you here today. When the Netherworld Eye opened in my Ho-Tu Stronghold, not only did thousands of spirit warriors enter the Netherworld Eye, even the 2 elders of Jingapple Stronghold, Ziyi and you entered. But in the end, only you, Jilan, and my Huta Stronghold soul warrior, Mo Han, came out. The other several thousand soul warriors stayed in the Netherworld Sea. Even Midnight didn't come out. Even when we were outside the Yellow Springs Palace, we all knew that something had happened in the Netherworld Eye, but Jilan and Emohan knew very little about it. In the end, they only knew that the Sound Clam beast had appeared, but they were unable to tell how those thousands of people had died. Little friend Xiao, please explain this matter in detail. After all, Ziyi is the son of my Hutus'At. His death. I need to give an explanation to my people, as well as to Elder Wu, who has yet to return. As she spoke, Ji-man glanced at the bottom of her right hand, which was on the left side of Xiao Hua. Ji-man, Elder Ji-lan and the others were also seated there. She continued, moreover, the Jing Apple Village has been in my Hutu village for a long time. I can't refuse their request. Your wager should be decided today. If you can't take out the Netherworld Orchid, then this Netherworld Mirror will have to be given to the Jing Apple Village to use. Yes, this junior understands. Xiao Hua bowed and looked at Zi Ming. Zi Ming smiled slightly, as if he was encouraging Xiao Hua. And so Xiao Hua explained everything that happened in the Yellow Springs Palace, the Netherworld Eye, and even the situation of him and Zi Ming looking for the Netherworld Orchid and Netherworld Bamboo. There was nothing to hide about this matter, and Xiao Hua didn't plan on hiding it either. Although Zi Ming said that he didn't report it to Ji-man, who knew if Ji-man would ask Zi Ming about it? Since Zi Ming didn't give any hints, Xiao Hua would naturally talk about the dangers involved. When everyone heard that there were 2 underworld beasts in the Netherworld Sea, and that the Hutu god's doppelganger didn't look like Hutu god, but something else, they all turned pale with fright. When they heard that the 2 underworld beasts were fighting in the Netherworld Sea, they were even more confused. When Xiao Hua talked about the Sound Clam beast, Ji-man was not particularly surprised because she already had some guesses. Of course, Ziye's life should have ended when the Sound Clam beast appeared. Xiao Hua's words were also very good. When he heard the mysterious music, he immediately lost consciousness like Elder Ji-lan and the others. As for how long he lost consciousness, he didn't know. In short, when he woke up, his body flashed with golden light, and Ziyi had already disappeared. He left an excuse for Ziye's corpse to appear in the future, or for Zi Ming to resurrect Ziyi. The end of Xiao Hua's story was to escape. He escaped from the gap, and it was in that gap that he saw Elder Ji-lan. On the way, he even saw Emohan, who was crushed by a huge rock, and rescued Emohan in passing. Xiao Hua had been interrogated more than once in the Sword Dao battle, and he was able to weave an extravagant lie. When it came to telling the truth, it was naturally easy for him to do so, and his narration was extremely brilliant. So much so that when Xiao Hua finished speaking, looking at the intoxicated and infatuated appearance of everyone, Xiao Hua's own little tail was about to curl up. Damn it, it seems that if this young master doesn't have a place to cultivate, even if I go to some secular tea house, I can still be a storyteller with a boundless future. After half a cup of tea's time, Ji-man coughed and asked, Xiao Hua, can you confirm that the doppelganger of Hutu God is the phantom you saw in the square before? Damn it! Your nether beast is the nether beast that Hutu stronghold has worshipped for God knows how many years. Even when it saw Zi Ming, it didn't harm him. What I said is like slapping the face of the ancestors of Hutu stronghold. When Xiao Hua heard this, his little tail immediately shriveled up. He quickly bowed and said, Ji-man, this junior is going to report to you again, and this is also the result of this junior's meditation during this period of secluded cultivation. Speak. This junior was with Ziyi at that time. This junior said that I saw the nether beast in the square, but Ziyi denied it. Because this junior is not from Meng Mountains, I couldn't see the true face of the nether beast. What he saw was not the nether beast that appeared in the square. However, the situation was very urgent at that time, and this junior didn't dare to release my divine sense. Naturally, this junior was mistaken. Unfortunately, Ziyi can't explain it here. Oh! Ji-man breathed out a sigh of relief and nodded slightly. If that's the case, then this old woman is relieved. The doppelganger of Hutu God has been worshipped by my Hutu stronghold for countless years. How could it harm the people of my Hutu stronghold? It should be that other nether beasts are somewhat similar to the doppelganger of the great god. When they saw the doppelganger of the great god appear here, they followed it and occasionally appeared in the Netherworld Eye. Yes, that must be it. Zi Ming also breathed a sigh of relief. This matter was indeed a little strange. She herself didn't know the origin of the nether beast. When Xianxia was in secluded cultivation, she had considered how to explain it. She even wanted to say that this nether beast was the one that saved her and Xianxia later. She originally wanted to have a discussion with Xianxia when he came out of seclusion, but after encountering Fu Lu's matter, her mood suddenly became extremely bad, and she forgot all these things. When Xianxia brought it up now, her heart thumped loudly, and she knew the oversight in the matter. Xianxia's cover-up could not be considered clever, but it was detailed and pertinent. If he had directly followed Zi Ming's words and replaced the nether beast with a savior later, then the danger of this nether beast would have been covered up. If G-Man didn't have any misgivings, perhaps it would have harmed the Hutu's stronghold in the future. Now that Xianxia had given Zi Yi the right to judge, presumably G-Man had already heard something. It could be considered a perfect explanation for this matter. G-Man. Just as G-Man finished speaking, an old and doddering elder stood up, holding a bone staff in his hand. He trembled as he bowed and said, "This old man has a few questions, but I don't know if I should ask." He, Great Elder Jie, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. G-Man hurriedly raised his hand and replied, "Fine. I knew it." Xiaohua's face was bitter. It seemed that no matter where he went, he would be questioned by others. As expected, Great Elder Jie turned his head and looked at Xiaohua. "Xiaohua, what you said before, can you swear the Dao sect's so-called blood oath?" "Si." Xiaohua took in a deep breath. He had seen ruthless people before, but he had never seen such a ruthless person. The first sentence he said was to force others to swear a blood oath. It seemed that in Xiaohua's impression, only the extremely arrogant Gantian Mountain would do such a thing. "Elder." Xiaohua faintly bowed and said, "What this junior said is what this junior saw. This junior will report it in full detail. As for the blood oath, I'm sorry, this junior does not have the habit of bowing and groveling. Please forgive me." "Great Elder." Zi Ming hurriedly said, "Xiaohua is Zai's good friend and is also an important guest of our Back Earth stronghold. He definitely won't lie. Furthermore, there is no need for him to lie. This junior knows what you are thinking, but don't worry." Unfortunately, Great Elder Jie didn't care at all. He said with a calm and slightly old voice, "However, without the Dao sect's blood oath, this is all your side of the story. How do you expect me to believe you? Whether you believe me or not is Great Elder's matter. I won't force you." Xiaohua wasn't annoyed. He had to reply to the words of the Golden Core Masters in the meeting hall. However, facing the Great Elder of the Back Earth Hall, Xiaohua didn't feel any pressure. Cough cough, Great Elder. G-Man could only cough twice and say, "Xiaohua is a Dao sect cultivator and came to our Meng Mountain as a guest. No matter what, he represents the Dao sect. Furthermore, he is Zai's good friend and this matter concerns Zai's life and death. He definitely won't lie about this. As for the blood oath, let's not talk about it." Alright, since even G-Man believes it, this old man has nothing else to ask. Grand Elder Jie trembled as he prepared to sit down. Chapter 2906. Sigh. It seems like there are always people who take advantage of their seniority everywhere. The millions of soul cultivators in Meng Mountains are no exception. Xiaohua sighed. He knew that G-Man would definitely back down, so he quickly thought of a way to deal with it. Unexpectedly, G-Man said indifferently, "Since Great Elder Jie has nothing to ask, then sit down." G-Man. Before Great Elder Jie sat down, another slightly younger elder stood up and walked out from the table in front of him. Bowing, he said, "This subordinate has 2 questions for Xiaohua." Go ahead." G-Man nodded lazily. "Little friend Xiao, this old man from Hutu Stockade has 2 points that I don't quite understand. Please explain them in detail." Seeing that this person was very amiable, Xiaohua smiled and said, "Elder, please speak. This junior will tell you everything he knows." Actually, little friend has already explained it in detail, but this old man still doesn't understand. Elder Jie smiled and said, "Why did the second underworld beast save you? Could it be that young Master Zai has some connection with this underworld beast? Or does little friend have some connection with this underworld beast?" Elder, this is a good question. This is what this junior has always been puzzled about. Xiaohua nodded and said seriously, "If I say that this junior has some connection with the underworld beast, I'm sure Elder would be the first to not believe me, right? Hee hee, even this junior doesn't dare to believe it. But if the second underworld beast has some enmity with the first one, then this junior feels that it is a bit strange. The two underworld beasts happened to meet in the netherworldly eye, so they started fighting. Then, the soul cultivators of legends.At were affected. This is what my Tao sect always says: when the city gate is on fire, the fish in the moat will suffer. But recently, this junior has a new idea. When this junior lost consciousness, Zai was right next to this junior, and this junior had unknowingly walked to the side of the netherworldly sea. Before this junior lost consciousness, the two underworld beasts were still fighting. If Zai was saved by the underworld beast, then it is absolutely possible. That's right. Isn't that the underworld beast worshipped by legends.At? Ming's lips curled into a smile. He knew that Xiaohua wanted to bring out Zai's corpse more and more. This was an excellent reason for him to bring out his precious corpse in the future. Seeing that Xiaohua hadn't really answered the question, the first elder didn't pursue the matter any further. Instead, as if it were a routine matter, he asked another question. Very well then. This old man has one last question. That is, when the sound clam appeared, young friend, you were already not far from the Sea of Hades. But why was it that when you woke up and walked to the side of the Sea of Hades, the several thousand soul warriors of my back-earth stronghold were buried in the Sea of Hades? At that time, Elder Jilan was still very far away from the Netherworld Sea. What about the crack near the Netherworld Sea? Heh, Xiaohua laughed in his mind. He was the only one who knew the truth. Even Ming was confused, so didn't he just say whatever he wanted? AI, Elder Jie, this junior also wanted to answer this question of yours. Unfortunately, this junior has been thinking about it for a long time, but I haven't been able to figure it out. This junior doesn't know what happened on that day. After all, this junior was confused by the sound mirage beast and became delirious. This junior also doesn't know why the golden barrier around this junior's body was able to block the sound mirage beast. Furthermore, this golden barrier was eroded by the winds of the netherworldly sea. So why was it able to activate itself and block the sound? This junior also doesn't know. It seemed that Elder Jie didn't want to get to the bottom of the matter. Hearing Xiaohua's explanation, he nodded. This old man is puzzled. This is the end of everything and all the explanations are within. But little friend Xiao is also in a jar, so it's normal that you don't know. The reason why this old man asked is to see if little friend Xiao had any special feelings. No, Xiaohua shook his head firmly. After this junior woke up, this junior felt extremely tired, both mentally and physically. Furthermore, this junior was in a hurry to escape, so I didn't dare to think too much. Along the way, this junior used up all of this junior's magic power and was finally able to escape with my life. While this junior was meditating, this junior was still thanking the great goddess Hutu. Fortunately, she didn't want this junior to stay. Heh, the great goddess Hutu's embrace is the final destination for the people of Meng Mountain. Little friend Xiao is a cultivator of the Tao sect. Even if you wanted to, the great goddess wouldn't accept you. Elder Jie smiled and walked back to the table. Actually, just as Elder Jie said, there were only 3 survivors. Elder Jilan was one side, Mo Han was another, and Xiaohua was the third. Elder Jilan and Mo Han had already reported to Ji-Man in the Hutu Palace. They were interrogated in great detail, but they knew very little. They only knew that the entire netherworldly sea was shaken violently, countless passages collapsed, and countless cliffs fell down. In fact, most of the several thousand spirit warriors had died in this disaster. As for what exactly happened, they didn't know. The entire explanation could only be explained by Xiaohua, and what Xiaohua said didn't contradict what the other two said. Of course, it seemed that Xiaohua himself didn't know how many spirit warriors the nether beast killed and how much brain matter it ate. In the end, when facing the sound mirage beast, the 3 of them were unconscious. Midnight went missing, and no one could explain what happened. The most suspicious thing for the spirit warriors was the golden light Xiaohua used to escape. But it just so happened that this golden light was a technique of the Tao sect. Moreover, Xiaohua had saved 2 people while escaping. If Xiaohua had encountered any survivors, he would have definitely been able to save them. All of a sudden, the spirit warriors' mouths were shut. Everyone, is there anything else you want to ask? Ji-man lowered his head and looked around. If there's nothing else, this matter will be recorded in the shaman code. Oh, so that's how it is. Xiaohua somewhat understood why he had to answer questions in the Empress Earth Palace, and why that elder Shu Shi had to stand up and interrogate him. All of this had to be recorded in the Empress Earth Stronghold's shaman code. Ji-man, Ziming at the side bowed and said, Midnight should be recorded as missing. He might not have returned to the embrace of the Empress Earth Great God. Yes, these records have their own discretion. Ji-man nodded. If what Xiaohua said is true, then we were a little hasty in making the sacrifice for midnight. Hearing this, Ziming hurriedly lowered her head and looked at the ground. Clearly, this was also a mistake. She was a little too hasty. However, Ji-man didn't pursue this matter. She asked again, Xianxia, did you hear? Xiaohua accompanied Midnight to the Netherworld Eye. Although he didn't find the Netherworld Orchid, he did find the Netherworld Bamboo. You should know the value of the Netherworld Bamboo. This bet. Your Jing Apple Stronghold has lost. Yes, this concubine knows. Jing Apple Stronghold's Ji-man hurriedly stood up. Her face was filled with sorrow as she replied, If this concubine knew that the price would be so high, this concubine wouldn't have fought with Miss Ziming for anything. It's all because of this concubine's greed that caused such a huge loss. Ji-man, please punish me. Sigh, there's no need. Ji-man waved his hand. The cultivators of the Taoist sect often say that life and death are decreed by fate, and riches and honor are decided by the heavens. Zai was destined for this calamity. Everything happened because of the great Hutu god. You only came to my Hutu stronghold because you listened to the great Hutu god. Yes, this concubine understands. Jing Apple Stronghold's Ji-man hurriedly nodded. This concubine is willing to use the Netherworld Mirror only once. The first 2 times, we will let the Dao sect's distinguished guests use it first. Good. Ji-man nodded. If you don't have any objections, then let Ziming go to the ancestral shrine to ask for the spirit treasure. Yes, the boy understands. The boy will go to the ancestral shrine after bathing for 3 days. Ziming finally heaved a sigh of relief. She didn't think that things would be so simple. Then, Ji-man waved her hand. Ziming accompanied Xiaohua to the side. Outside the hall, another table was taken out. The 2 of them sat down. Ji-man casually asked a few more questions. Listening to those who came to report, most of them were about the drought in Meng Mountains. Ji-man only listened and instructed the note-takers. When Elder Wu came back, she stood up and left. That's it? After Ji-man left, everyone also stood up and prepared to leave the Empress Earth Hall in 2s and 3s. Xiaohua was just like Ziming. He was confused and felt that it was inconceivable. No one asked anything else? Let's go, young Master Xiao. Ziming smiled. The Empress Earth Hall is the meeting place of my Empress Earth stronghold. If it wasn't for the matter of the Netherworld Eye, young Master Xiao and the others wouldn't have been able to enter so easily. Good. I've really witnessed the majesty of the Empress Earth Stronghold's meeting hall. Xiaohua said with a smile. Everything had come to an end. They only needed to use the Netherworld Mirror 3 days later, and they would be able to find clues about Xiao Mao's background. At that time, the clouds would be lifted and the sky would be revealed. Thinking about this, Xiaohua felt that all his efforts were not in vain. All his suffering was not in vain. Young Master Xiao. A somewhat old voice sounded. Xiaohua raised his head and saw Elder Ji-lan of Jing Apple Stronghold walking quickly towards him. Elder Ji-lan. Xiaohua bowed and greeted. It has been several dozen days since we last met. Has Elder recovered? Young Master Xiao. Elder Ji-lan walked in front of Xiaohua and said gratefully, This old one was temporarily bewitched by the Sound Clam beast. I only need to rest for a few days. How can I be compared to young Master's injuries? This old one has always wanted to thank young Master for saving my life. However, this old one knew that you were seriously injured and needed to cultivate in seclusion. Thus, this old one did not dare to disturb you. Today, when I saw young Master in the Empress Earth Hall, this old one finally felt relieved. This old one hereby thanks young Master for his great kindness. After saying that, Elder Ji-lan was about to kneel on the ground. It was actually the etiquette of Meng Mountain. I don't dare. How could Xiaohua allow Elder Ji-lan to kneel? He quickly stepped forward and supported him. Who would have thought that this simple support would cause a great force to come from Elder Jilan's arm? Xiao Hua was startled. His arm could not help but exert strength as well, firmly supporting Elder Jilan. If that was all, it would be fine. However, after Xiao Hua supported Elder Jilan, the strength of Elder Jilan's arm gradually increased, as if he wanted to compete with Xiao Hua in terms of strength. Chapter 2907. This old man. What is he trying to do? Xiao Hua was quite puzzled, but he couldn't let go at this time, so he had to increase his strength along with Elder Jilan. After a while, Elder Jilan's face turned red. Xiao Hua smiled and said, Elder Jilan, are you here to thank me? Or are you here to compete? Elder Jilan's eyes flashed with a strange light. The strength in his arms slowly weakened, and the redness on his face gradually faded. He then smiled and said, This old man is here to thank you, young master. However, this old man heard that young master rescued Mo Han from the boulder, so I wanted to test young master's strength. This is a bit presumptuous of me. Oh, I see. Xiao Hua suddenly understood. That day, the boulder that was pressing down on Mo Han was extremely large and extremely heavy. Even with Xiao Hua's strength, he had to expend a great deal of effort to rescue Mo Han. Presumably, this Elder Jilan had heard about it and wanted to win, right? Young Master Xiao. Sure enough, Ziming smiled and said, Elder Jilan is the #1 divine force in our Hutu stronghold. Many young people nowadays can't compare to you. I'm ashamed, but this little strength is nothing in front of young Master Xiao. Elder Jilan waved his hand and took out a small storage pouch. He handed it to Xiao Hua and said, This old man is a soul cultivator. I've been traveling in Meng Mountains all my life. Although I've met some cultivators of the Dao sect, they were all weak. What this old man got from them was nothing good, so I just threw them away. You won't be able to use any of my soul cultivation items, so if this old and decrepit man were to only express his gratitude without actually giving you something in return, this old and decrepit man wouldn't be able to live with himself. Oh, Elder Jilan, you're too polite. Xiao Hua knew that there was nothing good in the storage pouch. Before Elder Jilan could finish, he hurriedly declined and said, Rescuing you is this junior's duty. Although you and I have different origins, one is a soul warrior and the other is a cultivator, when this junior met Zion Celestial City in the early years, we were hypocritical and felt that each other was sincere. At that time, to be honest, this junior didn't have a good impression of soul cultivators. But after the trip to Meng Mountains, not only did I know that Zai is a soul cultivator, but I also saw the simplicity of other soul warriors and natives. The difference between Dao and soul cultivators in this junior's heart has long faded. Although we have different cultivation paths, we are all cultivators of the world. You are this junior's senior. This junior has fulfilled his duty. Do you still dare to ask senior for repayment? Elder Jilan was very happy to hear this. His dark and thin face wrinkled like a black-orange peel, and his snow-white eyebrows trembled slightly. Young friend, this old man is very happy to hear such words. This old man wishes that you were one of the soul warriors of Meng Mountain. This old man will definitely pass on his mantle to you. Xiao Hua's hand was almost sticking out of his throat. He almost said yes himself. Ziming pursed her lips and wanted to laugh. At this time, she understood Xiao Hua's stinginess. She also knew that Xiao Hua also wanted Elder Jilan's soul technique bone. However, this was obviously impossible. Xiao Hua was a cultivator of the country of Shi. Ziming didn't dare to give Xiao Hua the soul cultivation technique and soul technique of Hutu's stronghold, so how could Elder Jilan do it? As long as senior has the heart. Xiao Hua pretended to be reserved and said, This junior understands senior's heart. Hee. Elder Jilan naturally wouldn't accept the storage pouch. He couldn't leave Xiao Hua's great kindness for the future. He smiled and said, Young Master Xiao, listen to this old's explanation. Senior, please speak. Xiao Hua obediently replied. At this time, Li Zongbao, Xiao Mao, and Fairy Xianxia came over and stood next to Xiao Hua with smiles on their faces. Xiao Hua smiled and nodded to the three, indicating that everything was fine. At this time, Elder Jilan continued, In order to thank young Master Xiao for his kindness, this olds took a lot of trouble. However, this olds has nothing that young Master Xiao can use. However, last time at the Huta Palace, Missouri Han said that he was crushed under a huge rock and thus escaped the sound mirage beast's bewitchment. When young Master Xiao rescued him, this old's heart was moved. This storage pouch was something this old specially returned to Jing Apple's stronghold to retrieve. I was waiting for young Master Xiao to come out of seclusion today before giving it to young Master Xiao. Oh, this old's intention was to test young Master Xiao's arm strength just now. Young Master Xiao, please don't misunderstand. It's fine, it's fine. Xiao Hua was grateful. After all, Elder Ji Lan really took a lot of trouble to thank him. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Just now, Miss Ziming also said that this old's innate divine strength is the strongest man in Huta's stronghold for several hundred years. When this old's was young, my ambition was higher than the sky. I wanted to become the strongest man in Meng Mountains. Moreover, I was looking for a way to increase my strength." Speaking until here, Elder Ji Lan was somewhat proud as he faintly recalled the scene of his heroic past. A bone refining technique? Xiao Hua's eyes lit up. His gaze unconsciously fell on the small storage pouch. Unfortunately, Elder Ji Lan immediately sighed and said, "However, this old searched the entire Meng Mountains for several tens of thousands of miles. I even went nearly 1,000 miles into Wu Meng Mountains, but I still couldn't find a suitable soul technique or body technique. Therefore, this old's knew that this old's had to go to Sword Domain or the Three Kingdoms to look for this secret technique. However, just as this old's disappointment was about to set off, this old's bone was actually recorded with the method to refine a weapon." Speaking until here, Elder Ji Lan looked at Xiao Hua and the others and asked in a somewhat showy manner, "I wonder if young Master Xiao and the others have heard of the primordial era's famous weapon, the Five Elements Heaven-Reaching Staff." Xiao Hua was stunned. He didn't expect that the millions of soul cultivators in Meng Mountains would actually know of this weapon. However, looking at the smile on Elder Ji Lan's face, Xiao Hua shook his head and said, "Junior and the others are ignorant and inexperienced. We have never heard of such a weapon. May I ask why this Five Elements Heaven-Reaching Staff is a famous weapon in the primordial era?" "Hee, these are all old stories buried in my Meng Mountains. If this old's hadn't obtained that bone, I'm afraid I wouldn't have known about it. It's normal that you all don't know about it." Ji Lan was overjoyed when she heard this. She knew that she could repay the favor today. She smiled and said, "The Five Elements Wishful Heaven Cudgel, as its name suggests, is a lethal weapon of the Five Elements. Any 5 elements in the world can be killed by it. As for the Heaven-Reaching Staff, it means that this weapon can change its size at will. As for the Heaven-Reaching Staff, it means that this weapon is unparalleled in the world. It can even pierce through the sky. So powerful." Apart from Xiao Hua, Li Zongbao and the others looked at each other. They really couldn't imagine that there was such a treasure in this world. Elder Ji Lan said proudly, "The bone this old's obtained is related to this 5 elements heaven-reaching staff." "Elder, could it be that the bone records the whereabouts of the 5 elements heaven-reaching staff?" Ziming asked curiously. "Young Miss Ziming," Elder Ji Lan said with a smile, "the 5 elements heaven-reaching staff is an item from the immemorial era. Who knows when the immemorial era was? In this world, not to mention the passage of time, just the vicissitudes of time, how could a single bone record the whereabouts of such a ferocious weapon? Then this bone must be the method to refine the 5 elements heaven-reaching staff?" Xiao Hua was a little disappointed and asked tentatively. "It's not that simple." Elder Ji Lan kept Xiao Hua guessing and said mysteriously, "The materials used to refine the 5 elements heaven-reaching staff are all heaven-defying. Without the so-called great divine ability, it's impossible to refine it. Even if this old's obtained it, it's useless." "Elder, you've talked for so long. What exactly is recorded in the bone?" Ziming understood that Elder Ji Lan wanted Xiao Hua to pay attention to this bone, so she took the opportunity to ask. "Naturally, it records the secret technique to refine a weapon that's extremely similar to the 5 elements heaven-reaching staff. The heaven-reaching staff." Elder Ji Lan finally uncovered the riddle and looked at Xiao Hua expectantly. Xiao Hua was really disappointed when he heard this. However, when he saw Elder Ji Lan's gaze, his face immediately flashed with surprise, and he said anxiously, "What? This is the secret technique to refine the heaven-reaching staff? Then, Isn't that the weapon this junior has been longing for? Elder, this is really too much. This junior thanks Elder. Ha ha ha, as long as little friend likes it. Elder Jilan's face blushed faintly.
This item is indeed of little value.
Elder Jilan hesitated. Don't. This item is very good. This junior wants it. If Xiaohua's soul could speak, he would definitely be shouting like this. This old man has a bone here that records a place. Of course, this place is very dangerous. According to this old man's knowledge, it's the place where a Dao sect cultivator died. Elder Jilan took out a bone from the soul nest and said, this old man doesn't know who this cultivator was or what his cultivation was. The bone only records that this cultivator died in Wu Meng. If little friend Xiao is fated, you can go and take a look. Maybe you can obtain his legacy. Speaking up to here, Elder Jilan was a bit embarrassed and said, this old man only has these that little friend Xiao can use. There's nothing else. Hee hee. Elder Jilan. Xiaohua faintly smiled and reached out to take the storage bag and the bone. He threw them into the space without hesitation and said, the important thing is senior's goodwill. This junior doesn't want to accept it. This junior won't really go to Wu Meng to look for that Dao sect cultivator's legacy. Good. Seeing that Xiaohua finally kept the storage bag, Elder Jilan's heart also settled down.
He said in a relaxed manner, this old man will return to the Jianghu village tomorrow.
If little friend Xiao has time, you can come to the Jianghu village as a guest. This old man is looking forward to it. Good. Xiaohua cupped his hands and said, this junior will definitely pay a visit when he has time. Then, Elder Jilan followed Xiaohua and cupped his hands to bid farewell. After Elder Jilan left, only Xiaohua and the others were left in the back earth hall. It seemed very empty. Let's go, young Master Xiao. Ziming looked at everyone and walked in front. Are you all right? Fairy Xianxia looked at Ziming's back and asked Xiaohua softly. Xiaohua smiled and nodded. Of course I'm all right. It's a pity that my seclusion time was too short. It's still too short. It's already been dozens of days. Fairy Xianxia said worriedly. This concubine thought that your injuries were extremely serious. It's still all right. Xiaohua didn't say much and left the back earth hall. From the outside, the back earth hall was extremely vast and dangerous. But from the inside it was much easier. Even though the thick bone pillars were still bone pillars, they didn't have the same aura as before. They didn't look too different from the pillars of a normal palace. As soon as Xiao Chen stepped out of the back earth hall, he was greeted by several guards. They were lined up neatly on either side of the door. A tall and skinny dark-skinned soul warrior walked over to Xiao Chen and bowed. This one is Mo Han. Thank you for saving my life, young Master Xiao. Mo Han. Xiaohua was surprised. He looked at this unfamiliar soul warrior and didn't have any impression of him. But then he remembered what G-Man said in the back earth hall. Smiling, he raised his hand and said, don't thank me, don't thank me. It was nothing but a small effort from this Xiao. There's no need to thank me. This junior's injuries are quite serious. I've been resting for the past few days. When I heard that young Master Xiao had come to the back earth hall, I hurried over. I must thank young Master Xiao for his kindness. Mo Han said sincerely after being helped up. Mo Han, I've heard about your injuries. You should go back and rest. Ziming said with a smile. Young Master Xiao is a man with a big heart. You won't take this matter too seriously. Yes, this subordinate will go back now. Mo Han looked at Ziming, then looked at Xiaohua and smiled. Since this subordinate can see that young Master Xiao and young Miss Ziming are both safe and sound, this subordinate can rest easy. After saying that, Mo Han turned around and left. When he left, his steps were still a bit light. It was obvious that his injuries hadn't healed yet. Alas, we soul warriors of Meng specialize in soul warriors. But some soul warriors have neglected to refine their bodies. Ziming looked at Mo Han's back and sighed. This Mo Han's injuries may be serious, but it's been several weeks. Even if they haven't healed, it shouldn't be like this. When Xiaohua heard this, he raised an eyebrow as if he had discovered something. But just as he was about to say something, Ziming turned to look at Xiao Mao. She was a bit hesitant to talk to Xiao Hua too much. Ziming said, "Young Master Xiao, I'm afraid you've been waiting for too long. As the saying goes, good things come with many setbacks. After so many things, young Master Xiao will definitely have a good ending." Xiao Mao had gotten to know quite a few elders of Meng over the past few weeks. Even though he didn't talk too much, and didn't even talk about his origins, he had a general understanding of the situation in the Back Earth Stronghold and Shibai Stronghold. It was much clearer than what Ziming had told him, and what Old Wu had told him. Because of this, Xiao Mao wasn't too worried about his situation. When he heard Ziming's words, he quickly cupped his hands and said, "Young Miss Ziming, you've done a lot for this subordinate. This Xiao can't thank you enough. Hee, this is for young Master Xiao, and at the same time, for this concubine." Ziming smiled and nodded. "This concubine will go back to bathe and burn some incense. 3 days later, I'll invite the Netherworld Mirror and head to young Master Zhao's place. We'll use the 2 chances that we've obtained with great difficulty." "Good. I'll wait for young Miss Ziming's good news." Xiao Mao smiled and nodded. Immediately after, Ziming ordered the guards beside her to send Xiao Hua and the rest back. Then, she hurriedly left. Humph. Seeing how Ziming had separated herself from Xiao Hua so clearly in front of her, and didn't even say a word, Fairy Xianxia snorted coldly in her heart. But at this moment, Xiao Hua suddenly realized something and hurriedly looked in the direction Ziming had left. However, Ziming had already walked far away, and her graceful figure was nowhere to be seen. "What's wrong? Do you have something to say again?" Fairy Xia's tone was a little unfriendly. Xiao Hua nodded thoughtfully. "Indeed. Some things. If you think about it carefully, it's really interesting." "What do you mean?" Fairy Xianxia saw how serious Xiao Hua was and asked curiously. Xiao Hua took a look and transmitted his voice. Emo Han's words just now seemed to have another meaning. Although Emo Han was slightly injured, his injuries shouldn't be so serious. "Ayo, not bad." Fairy Xianxia savored it carefully, and a look of astonishment appeared on her face. Emo Han didn't even know that you and Ziming had gone to the Netherworld Eye together. Why did he say that he was relieved that young Master Xiao and young Miss Ziming were safe and sound? Could it be? That's right. Perhaps that person in the Empress Earth Palace already has suspicions about Ziming. Xiao Hua nodded his head slightly and expressed his worries. Chapter 2909. Sigh, that's true. Fairy Xianxia also frowned. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in this world. Ziming's actions will sooner or later reach Hutu's stronghold. Darling Xiao, since you've thought of it, why didn't you tell Ziming earlier? Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. Didn't I just think of it? I was just about to tell her when she left in a hurry. Perhaps she already knows? Fairy Xianxia sighed. That should be the case. Ziming is very sensitive to such matters. Since you and I have thought of it, she must have understood as well. You and I don't have to worry too much. She should be able to protect herself. Let's hope so. The 2 of them transmitted their voices to each other as they slowly walked to the main hall where they were resting. After the guards had left, Xiao Hua told Li Zongbao and Xiao Mao about his guess. The 2 of them were anxious when they heard it, but their thoughts were similar to Fairy Xia's. This Hutu stronghold was a place where millions of descendants of the great god Hutu of Meng Mountain gathered. The mysteries within it were not something cultivators like them could fathom. Even if Xiao Hua wanted to send a letter to Ziming, it would not be easy. He might even alert the enemy. Naturally, Xiao Hua was not at ease with the 3 of them going somewhere else to meditate. Thus, he set up the capital star formation in the main hall where he meditated and the 4 of them rested. Seeing Fairy Xianxia and the other 2 closing their eyes and meditating, Xiao Hua smiled and took out the storage pouch that Elder Jilan had given him. In fact, he was itching to see what was inside the pouch when he was in the main hall. However, he held back. Now that he had the time, he naturally wanted to take a look. Hiss, when Xiao Hua's divine sense swept across the storage pouch, a look of surprise appeared on his face. The storage pouch was not big and looked very small. It was almost the same size as the low-grade storage pouch that Xiao Hua had exchanged for 90 low-grade spirit stones. However, when Xiao Hua saw what was inside,
He knew that he was wrong. Furthermore, he could already imagine how many materials Elder Jilan had spent his entire life searching for. However, he still thought too little. Inside this small storage pouch, there were many different materials. These materials were of different shapes and colors, but without exception, they were all huge. Among these materials, there were some strange huge stone pillars. These stone pillars were iron gray in color and had thumb-sized lumps on them, giving them a heavy feeling. Some of them were huge square blocks. These square blocks were greenish-red in color, and there were some flame-like patterns on the surface. The patterns were dotted with star-shaped patterns, and they looked like little galaxies. There were also a lot of large, silvery white, irregular materials. These materials seemed to be broken into several pieces. There were some sawtooth-like cracks and some thick lines. There were also some oval-shaped, earthy yellow in color. The surface of these materials was smooth, without any bumps or bumps. Of course, other than these different materials, there were also many strange magic weapons stacked in a corner of the storage bag. What materials are these materials? Xiao Hua was overjoyed, but at the same time, he was dumbfounded. He took out the bone and inspected it with his soul sense. Then, he nodded his head inwardly. This green and red color is called flame refinement. The silver color is called 10,000 rolls of snow, and the yellow color is called fire refinement. They are all extremely heavy materials that contain the 5 elements, and are unique to these millions of Meng mountains. Sigh, these are the materials that Elder Jilan spent his entire life searching for. After a brief inspection, Xiao Hua sent the storage pouch into the immortal dimension, leaving only 2 of the bones in his hands. Xiao Hua took a quick look at the bone that recorded the fall of the Dao sect senior, and sent it into the immortal dimension. Xiao Hua would not recklessly enter a dangerous place where even the Dao sect senior had fallen. Next, Xiao Hua placed all his attention on the refining method of the heaven leveling staff. Xiao Hua's current refining level was already very high. Previously, he had fused the exquisite gold and great wisdom heavy sword into the 5 elements will heaven leveling staff. Now, with the help of the refining method, he naturally gained a lot. The more he looked at it, the more a smile appeared on his face. 3 days later, Xiao Hua opened his eyes and stood up, keeping the capital stars array. Fairy Xianxia and the rest stood up as well. When they opened the door of the hall, some guards were already waiting for them outside. Translator's thoughts seeing the 2 rows of guards guarding the steps in front of the palace, Xiao Hua understood that Ziming would definitely be able to obtain the spirit treasure nether passage mirror from the Empress Earth stronghold today. Thus, the 4 of them opened the palace door and stood guard outside, quietly waiting for Ziming's arrival. Who would have thought that this wait lasted until noon? Seeing that the scarlet sun was already high above their heads, Ziming still hadn't arrived. If it wasn't for Mo Han's warning, Xiao Hua wouldn't have let his imagination run wild. Thinking that even Mo Han had sensed something, could Ziming still be safe? Xiao Hua could not help but become impatient. Big brother, don't be anxious. Let me go ask. Xiao Mao saw Xiao Hua's impatience and hurriedly said. Xiao Hua nodded gloomily. He had a bad premonition in his heart. However, when Xiao Mao walked out of the palace and asked the guards, he came back with a smile on his face. Big brother, we were all wrong. Xiao Mao said, that nether passage mirror can only be used at night. At this time, the sun is high in the sky and the yang energy is abundant. How can it communicate with the netherworld? Oh, that's true. Xiao Hua suddenly understood, and his heart relaxed. Moreover, that guard also said, Miss Ziming entered the ancestral hall 3 days ago and will come out after dusk today. They are only waiting here according to the ancestors' rules. Xiao Mao pointed at those guards again. Xiao Hua smiled and said, It seems that we are somewhat like birds startled by the twang of a bow. Yes, little brother was too impatient. Xiao Mao pursed his lips and said with a smile, Little brother really can't wait to know what mother looks like. At this point, Xiao Hua unconsciously raised his eyes and looked at Li Zongbao, who had not spoken much during this period of time. However, he saw that Li Zongbao was now similar to when he was in the great battle of Dao Sword. His face was as calm as water, as if what everyone said had nothing to do with him. AI, the treasured mirror of parting emotions. The treasured mirror of parting emotions. Xiao Hua sighed. It was originally a cultivation technique that made people fickle and heartless. Coupled with the backlash of the spiritual tool, senior brother Li's situation. I don't know if it's good or bad. Since they knew that nothing would happen, the four of them simply sat behind the door of the hall. The four of them all had secret techniques to comprehend, so they had to hurry. In a flash, thin clouds rose from the west, and a crescent moon that was thinner than a light eyebrow gradually hung in the sky. Ming, who was dressed in plain clothes, finally arrived. Without waiting for Ming to approach the steps of the main hall, the guards lined up on both sides of the hall put their hands on the ground and bent their bodies. A kind of fear and a kind of reverence flashed in their eyes as they looked at Ming, who was holding a white bone bracelet. This bone bracelet was extremely strange. It looked like Ming was holding it with both hands, but in reality, it was 2 inches away from Ming's hands, floating in the air. Moreover, this bone bracelet really did not stop rotating, sometimes left and right, sometimes up and down. A kind of dark green brilliance was born from the bone bracelet, as if it was a dark green ball of light. At this time, Ming's expression was solemn. Her head was lowered, and her eyes were also looking at the bone bracelet. That night, her face was painted with a dark green color, which looked somewhat strange. Behind Ming, there were also a dozen maidservants dressed in plain clothes. Their dressing was completely different from during the day. About 10 zhang behind these maidservants, Elder Sun Yu of the Jing Apple village was waiting there with a little girl who was not more than 6 or 7 years old. When Xiao Hua and the others sensed Ming's arrival, they all walked out of the main hall, originally wanting to welcome him. However, when they saw the solemn ceremony of the Huta village, they hurriedly returned to the main hall, fearing that their recklessness would disrupt the ceremony and cause trouble for no reason. Sure enough, when the 4 of them just returned to the main hall, a burst of singing and footsteps sounded. Those guards and the maidservants behind Ming actually began to dance. Strands of light green brilliance slowly appeared, covering the main hall. Then, it slowly entered the dark green ball of light. After the time it took to eat a meal, the noise outside the main hall slowly stopped as Ming's footsteps finally stepped on the stairs. "Young Master Xiao, please come with me." Ming walked into the main hall, his face as calm as water. Without even looking at the 4 of them, he just whispered an order and slowly walked towards the center of the main hall. Xiao Hua was slightly startled. He did not understand if he was talking about himself. However, when he saw Xiao Mao hurriedly walking towards him, he smiled bitterly and shook his head. Although the reason he came to the Huta village and used the Netherlink mirror was for Li Zongbao, in terms of importance, Xiao Mao was still the most important person. He did not seem to have done anything to use the Netherlink mirror. So why did Ming call him? Seeing that Li Zongbao and Fairy Xianxia had also followed Xiao Mao, Xiao Hua looked at the maidservants who came in. Elder Sun Yu and the little boy who were waiting at the entrance of the main hall also quickly followed. When they reached the center of the main hall, Ming stopped and respectfully placed his hands above his head. The bone bracelet also slowly rose up. After that, Ming's hands and feet began to tremble, and he also began to dance. At the same time, he was also muttering some strange language of Meng Mountain. As he muttered, strands of green light flashed out, gradually entangling the ball of light of the bone bracelet. A buzzing sound was gradually heard, and the dark green brilliance gradually vibrated and became brighter as the green light increased. Puff! While Ming was chanting, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood essence into the dark green brilliance that was as thin as a cicada's wing. With a cracking sound, the brilliance suddenly condensed into a single point and shot towards the top and bottom of the bone bracelet. With a muffled boom, as if the door of a house had been opened, 2 fist-sized holes appeared on the top and bottom of the bone bracelet. With a splash, like a blood waterfall, the blood of the netherworld gushed out from the holes and rushed into the middle of the bone bracelet along the brilliance. In that instant, the entire bone bracelet turned blood red. At the same time, a layer of blood membrane was formed from the bone bracelet. This blood membrane did not stop, but condensed into blood on the other side of the bone bracelet and rushed into the other hole. Chapter 29:10. Ming's face was pale. He pointed at the netherworld mirror, and the blood-red membrane slowly fell down. It was about the height of a person, and the netherworld water on the blood membrane slowly flowed. It looked very similar to a mirror. "Young Master Xiao," Ming spoke, "come closer and think of the person you are looking for." That person's face will appear on the netherworld mirror. Even her situation in the netherworld may appear.
Yes.
At this point, how could Xiao Mao still be suspicious of this spirit treasure that was obviously not related to a mirror? He walked in front of the blood membrane with great sincerity and opened his eyes wide. Although Xiao Hua was not close to the blood membrane, he still stared at it closely, trying to find something from it. Unfortunately, after half a cup of tea's time, the entire blood membrane flashed with a green light, and then it shone like a bright moon. It covered Xiao Mao's entire face. After half a cup of tea's time, the green light dimmed, and the blood membrane gradually revealed itself. Behind the green light, Xiao Mao had tears streaming down his face. Young Master Li Ziming's expression did not change, and he ordered methodically, "It's your turn."
Okay.
Li Zongbao replied. Although his expression was calm, his voice was obviously trembling, as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Xiao Mao retreated, and hurriedly took out a jade scroll. He sat down cross-legged, and without caring about the others, he immersed his spirit into it. Li Zongbao walked to where Xiao Mao was, and similarly opened his eyes wide, staring at the blood membrane. After a while, the green light flashed, and Li Zongbao's face was also covered. But it only covered for a moment, and the green light disappeared again. Only the faint sound of flowing water could be heard from the blood membrane.
Why is this?
Li Zongbao was extremely surprised, and looked at Ziming. Ziming said indifferently, "The person young Master Li is thinking of is not in the netherworld, or rather, she is not dead."
How is that possible?
Not only was Li Zongbao shocked, even Xiao Hua and Fairy Xianxia were shocked. Li Zongbao turned to look at Xiao Hua. Her corpse was personally sent back by this Xiao. Xiao Hua hastily said as he took a step forward. "That's right, I personally buried her." Fairy Xianxia said curiously, Could it be that she has already reincarnated?"
Reincarnation may not be true.
Ziming replied indifferently. "Even if there is such a thing as reincarnation, the spirit treasures of my Ho-Tu stronghold can see it.
Unless this person isn't dead. Let me take a look again."
Li Zongbao asked in disbelief. "Young Master Li has already seen it. You can't look at it anymore." Ziming shook his head. "However, since Mr. Li did not see it, it doesn't count. Between Mr. Xiao and Fairy Xianxia, one of them can still see it."
"You go,"
Xiao Hua said to Fairy Xianxia without hesitation.
"All right."
Fairy Xianxia also missed her elder sister immensely and hurriedly walked over. Li Zongbao hurriedly stepped aside. Under the watchful gazes of the masses, Fairy Xianxia did the same as Li Zongbao. The brilliance did not stop at all as it disappeared in a flash.
"That's right. This person wasn't dead. There's no need to look anymore."
Ziming became more and more certain. He looked at Xiao Hua and said, "Young Master Xiao, you have 2 chances. Come and take a look."
"Me?
What do I have to look at?" Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand. Although Xiao Hongyue and Gong Mingwei had fallen for a long time, Xiao Hua had a deep impression of their voices and smiles. There was no need for him to look. Furthermore, the 2 of them were in another world in the netherworld. Xiao Hua did not want to disturb them. Sigh, if only senior sister was here. Xiao Hua thought and turned to look at Elder Sun Yu and the young child. He said, "Let's invite Elder Sun Yu over. After all, they have proper matters to attend to." Ziming naturally knew of Xiao Hua's kindness. He nodded his head and said, "Elder Sun Yu, invite Bo Hong over."
"All right."
Elder Sun Yu was overjoyed. He hurriedly brought the young child over. Ziming was afraid that the young child did not know, so he repeated the key points again. Only then did he let the young child stand there. Although the young child named Bo Hong was young, his eyes flashed with determination. He bit his lips and looked at the blood membrane. This time it was even easier. In a breath's time, a green light covered Bo Hong's face. After a cup of tea's time, the green light dispersed. After the green light disappeared, Bo Hong's face revealed a terrified expression. It was as if he had seen something terrifying. However, the child's small hands were tightly clenched, although they were trembling.
Saw it?"
Elder Sun Yu's face was extremely gloomy as he asked in a deep voice. Bo Hong did not answer. He only nodded his head firmly.
Elder Sun Yu sighed.
He raised his head and said to Ziming, "Young Miss Ziming, there should be one more chance for this netherworld mirror. Can you?" Ziming knew what he wanted to say. He shook his head and said, "It's almost past midnight. It's too late to ask her to come over." Sigh, fate makes fools of people. Elder Sun Yu held Bo Hong's hand and bowed to Ziming. He then thanked Xiao Hua and the others and stood to the side. There's still a cup of tea's worth of time left. Ziming looked around and her gaze landed on Xiao Hua. She said indifferently, "Young Master Xiao won 2 chances to use the netherworld mirror. Because of this you also lost Zai. This opportunity cannot be wasted. Right now, only young Master Xiao can use the netherworld mirror. Come over." But who am I looking at?" Xiao Hua scratched his head. He knew that this was a rare opportunity that could not be wasted. However, he really did not know who to look at. "Forget it. Let's look at Master." Xiao Hua walked in front of the blood membrane and said in his heart, "When I see senior sister and second senior brother, I can explain it to them." Thinking about this, Xiao Hua looked at the blood membrane that was flowing like water. Xiao Hua's eyes fell on the blood membrane, but his mind couldn't calm down. Xiao Hongyue's and Gong Mingwei's faces kept appearing in his mind. Although the flowing blood membrane flickered with a faint green light, it didn't shine for a long time. This adult had experienced many things and thought about many things. Although he was a cultivator and paid attention to his Tao heart, he was not as pure as a child. "Forget it." Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. He knew that he was unable to calm down. Just as he was about to move his eyes away, an unimaginable thought suddenly appeared in his mind. "That's right. Why can't I think about my own life? Perhaps I can see something from it? Dream." I remember that when Hongxia was in danger at the Sword Peak, this name suddenly appeared in my mind. Perhaps I can find something from it. Thinking about this, Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and gradually wiped away the faces of Xiao Hongyue and Gong Mingwei. Gradually, a faintly discernible beauty mark appeared in his mind. Ziming was also somewhat anxious. Seeing that the time was about to come, the netherworld mirror still had not emitted a green light. Just as she was about to speak, a wang sound was heard. The entire netherworld mirror emitted an intense brilliance. In an instant, it covered Xiao Hua. This brilliance was so intense that it far exceeded what Ziming had seen before. Ziming was shocked. As for Xiao Hua, in the instant that beauty mark appeared in his mind, he saw the blood membrane that was originally gurgling with blood suddenly become blurry. It was as if it had entered a teleportation. All of the blood vessels were distorted and all of the green light was elongated. After a burst of light and shadow changed in front of his eyes, a huge pitch-black silhouette appeared in front of him. It was like a huge palace, but also like an unparalleled monster in the world. However, before he could see clearly what the silhouette was, an extremely strange and icy cold voice resounded by his ear, and it spoke a few words that he didn't understand at all. Immediately after, his vision became heavy as numerous enormous shadows smashed down like boulders, and the blood-red nether passage mirror appeared before his eyes once more. However, at this time, all of the blood within the netherworld mirror was cut off. All of the green light was scattered. Moreover, this scattering spread to the bone ring around the blood membrane in an instant. Gotcha! A few crisp sounds rang out. The entire bone ring cracked in 3 places. A mirror-like shadow flashed out at the same time as the cracks appeared. It turned into specks of light and rushed into the blood flow. Moreover, as the bone ring broke, the 2 holes pierced by the green light instantly disappeared. The large amount of blood flowing between the 2 holes immediately turned into an incomparably ferocious hell wind that soared into the sky. It was like a huge hammer smashing towards the roof of the hall. Although the roof of the main hall flashed with green light, which seemed to be the defense of the soul array, under this unparalleled netherworld wind pillar, it was easily torn apart. A hole of about 10 feet appeared on the roof of the main hall. The netherworld wind pillar rushed into the night sky and disappeared. Only faint starlight sprinkled down from the hole and fell on Ziming, who was caught off guard and did not know what to do. And on the entire main hall, all of the people who were dumbfounded. Young Master Xiao, what are you doing? After a long while, Ziming hesitantly asked. His gaze timidly looked at the bone ring that had already broken into several pieces and fallen on the floor of the main hall. I really did not do anything. Xiao Hua was also extremely wronged. I just wanted to take a look. I did not expect it to be like this. Ziming almost wanted to cry. He asked closely. Then what did you see? What did you want to see? I also do not know what I wanted to see. And I also do not know what I saw. Xiao Hua wanted to cry even more. He really did not see anything. It was just a blurry outline. Who the hell knew what it was? Young Master Xiao, you have caused this concubine to suffer. Ziming stomped his feet and bent down to pick up the bone ring. But at this time, a ghostly voice came from the hole. Ziming! This is all because of you. How did this old woman treat you? You can ask yourself. I did not expect you to do such a thing against this old woman. Ji-man? Xiao Hua and Ziming were both shocked. They were about to raise their heads to look at the sky. At this time, a strong turbulence rushed in from the hole. It was like a netherworld wind pillar that broke the sky and trapped Xiao Hua and the other 4 people. Chapter 29:11. Xiao Hua didn't even have time to use his mana before he felt a sharp pain in his head. If his soul stab was like a sharp knife, then Ji-man's soul stab was like a mountain of knives and a sea of knives. Xiao Hua's body was covered in cuts and bruises. Moreover, in the instant his magic power became sluggish and his head started to hurt. Several dark green rays of light entangled by the black gas descended from the sky like dark green pythons, firmly trapping Xiao Hua. Not only was his magic power shackled, even his physical body was numb and powerless. Roar! How could Xiao Hua allow himself to be captured so easily? He forcefully activated the Dragonization Manual, and also forcefully activated the Celestial Body Bestowment Technique. A layer of faint golden light suddenly appeared on the surface of his body. This golden light was like a thorn that pierced straight into the dark green giant python, forcefully creating a gap of half an inch. Humph! There was another cold snort. A pale white streak of light came down from the sky. It was a soul armament. This soul armament was about the size of a palm, but it suddenly expanded in size in the wind of the netherworld. Like a giant hand, it slammed into Xiao Hua's golden light. Kacha-kacha. There was a series of cracking sounds as the large lock turned into a shackle that locked Xiao Hua's entire body in place. One by one, white bones started to form and pierce deep into Xiao Hua's body. The golden light around Xiao Hua's body was immediately extinguished. 2 sharp sword-like bone spurs emerged from the shackles and protruded from Xiao Hua's back. They dangerously pressed against the back of Xiao Hua's head and the top of his head. Those sharp points had already pierced into Xiao Hua's skin. An enormous force emerged from the white bones of the shackles. Not only did it completely confine Xiao Hua's body in meridians, it also sealed the mysterious dark clouds. Ai, Xiao Hua sighed. This Ji-man was far too strong. Looking at Ziming and the others, he saw that they were also trapped by the giant python. There was nothing they could do to resist. Xiao Hua looked up to see Ji-man's malevolent face. Slowly coming out from the hole, Ji-man's eyes were filled with hatred as he looked at everyone. Lord Ji-man, Xiao Hua struggled with all his might, but it seemed that he still had some strength left in him. He shouted, "This Xiao was the one who broke this nether passage mirror. I will bear all the responsibility." The nether passage mirror. Hee, you're really powerful, spiritual master Xiao. You actually destroyed the soul treasure of my Hutu stockade. Do you really intend to join hands with this slut to snatch my Hutu stockade from my hands? When Ji-man heard this, he glanced at the wreckage of the netherlink mirror on the ground. A trace of astonishment flashed across his face as he spoke coldly. Ji-man, what do you mean? Without waiting for Xiao Hua to speak, Ziming also said coldly, "Although this boy has made some mistakes, when has he ever had such a rebellious heart? Could it be that Ji-man? Heh, if you have a mind to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. You really won't turn back until you hit the wall. What are you still trying to hide from me?" With a wave of Ji-man's hand, the sound of hurried footsteps could be heard from outside the hall. Over 100 armored guards were escorting dozens of soul warriors into the hall. These dozens of soul warriors were all drenched in blood, and their faces were filled with malevolence. What is this for? Ziming squinted his eyes and said indifferently, "These are all boys' close attendants. It was precisely because the boy was worried that the Hutu stockade's defense would be lax that he sent them out to patrol. G-Man captured them all and even tortured them for questioning.
Why? Could it be?
G-Man wants to force the boy into harm? Ha ha ha, what do I need a reason to do?
You're just a candidate for G-Man.
Do I need to force you into harm? G-Man laughed bitterly. It's just that I never thought that this old woman would be so kind to you.
Everything I did was for your sake.
I even gave you a fair chance. But you're actually a mountain wolf that can't be tamed. Just a little bit of success and you became so arrogant. Not only did you do so many things behind my back that made my heart cold, you even killed Lu.
Did you know?
Lu had warned this old woman more than once, but this old woman had always believed you. I thought that a woman who vowed to revive others would not have any evil intentions. But I never thought that your revival of others was just an excuse.
It was just a way for you to cover up your evil deeds. Once the time is right, you'll reveal your sharp teeth.
You really made me give up.
G-Man, why don't you stop talking?
Facing G-Man's madness, Z-Ming replied indifferently. Could it be that you didn't sleep well last night and suddenly went crazy? For no reason, you killed the boy's close attendants and even captured the boy and the others. You even took out the Hutu stockade's soul lock to deal with the guests from the country of Xi.
Oh, what does your Lu-er's life have to do with the boy?
Besides, the one who wants him dead is probably that Lu-er called Ziyan, right? The boy only needs to light up the soul loss lamp and he'll be G-Man.
Why do you have to look for trouble and take other people's lives?
Hee, even now, you're still so stubborn. Don't think that I can't kill you just because Elder Wu isn't in the Hutu stockade.
G-Man sneered, knowing that Z-Ming had nothing to fear.
She clapped her hands and took out a fist-sized token, saying, Of course, I won't kill you secretly. The reason I made such a big fuss is to tell the whole Hutu stockade that I have Elder Wu's token in my hands. With this token, as long as I bring you to the ancestral temple and report to the Hutu great god, I'll be able to exercise Elder Wu's responsibility. Naturally, I can also use this to kill all of you. Hearing this, Z-Ming's face turned pale, but then he smiled faintly. Boy has long thought about this situation. You want to get rid of the boy and make way for your Lu. It's not that the boy doesn't know. It's just that the boy has always been under Elder Wu's protection and didn't let you succeed. Now that Elder Wu is really on a long journey, you're using this opportunity to show off your power. The boy had long expected this when he returned to the Hutu stockade. However, the boy didn't expect you to wait until now to make your move.
You're really shrewd.
Humph, G-Man snorted again, her anger rising again. You're just like that bitch, always thinking that you're infallible and putting your own thoughts on others. You only think that you're the most reasonable person in the world. Don't you think that if I had the intention to get rid of you, why would I wait until now? Even if Elder Wu is in the Hutu stockade, I can still kill you.
Haven't you already done it?
Why didn't you wait for Elder Wu to come back? Z-Ming bit his lips so hard that some blood vessels appeared, and he reprimanded her word by word. That's because I can't wait any longer. G-Man's voice was terrifyingly cold. Lu has some expectations for Elder Wu's position, and I know that. But I've warned him before, Meng Mountains will always have a lot of kinship, and we can't split the Hutu stockade into two just because of some power. In the early years, the ancestors of Meng Mountains had such considerations when they set up Elder Wu and G-Man in the shaman stockade. Lu is very obedient, and he's always listened to my words. He's always given in to you. And he's never fought with Zai for anything in the Hutu stockade. But this time, when the weather in Meng Mountains changed, you lit up the soul-drawing lantern, disregarding the life and death of the people of Meng Mountains. Lu is very obedient, and for the sake of the people of Meng Mountains, he worked tirelessly. I don't even know how many hardships he went through before he finally found the source of the change in the weather, and he even asked for a battle before me, saying that he's willing to lead his subordinates to wipe it out.
Look at what Lu has done, and look at you. You've really disgusted me.
I really don't know how I've tolerated you all these years. The more G-Man spoke, the more agitated she became, and her entire body was trembling. It seemed like she was really enraged by the sudden news.
Of course you like your Lu.
No one else can compare to him. Z-Ming had already thrown caution to the wind, and he didn't care about anything else. He said calmly, But do you know what your lure did in Huta Stockade?
What did he do in the vicinity of Peacock Mound?
Haha.
That's right, you're absolutely right. In your eyes, lure has always been a thorn in your side. That so-called change in the weather is probably a trap that you've painstakingly set up, right? It was also you who leaked this information to lure through someone else, right? You didn't dare to ask for help from Huta Stockade, so you took advantage of the cultivators you've met in Xi to ask them to help you, right?
G-Man laughed angrily. My poor lure that day. I even told him clearly that such a change in the weather could not be caused by a single soul beast. But for the sake of the people of Meng Mountains, he didn't listen to my advice, and even said that he wouldn't know until he tried. If you had 10% of Lure's loyalty, how could you have thought of such a vicious plan to kill Xiao Chong? At this point, G-Man waved her hand and said coldly, Kill them all.
Yes.
The guards in the hall responded. At the same time, they waved their hands. Without using any machetes, the heads of the dozens of captured spirit warriors were immediately separated from their necks. Their blood spurted high into the air, and the entire hall was immediately filled with a pungent smell of blood. However, all the spirit warriors in the hall seemed to be very familiar with this. Even the 10-year-old child from Jingchong Stockade didn't show any signs of fear. The guards threw away the corpses of the dead spirit warriors and strode to the pool of blood in front of them. They reached out their hands and picked up the heads of the spirit warriors, stuffing them into their waists. Ziming coldly looked at this scene and said coldly, Just now you said that others killed Xiao Chong, but now you killed the spirit warriors of Huta Stockade in the blink of an eye, and you didn't even ask. It was my order. How could they deserve the death penalty?
Heh, you finally admit it?
G-Man laughed coldly. This old woman thought that you would be stubborn to the end.
Humph, what did I admit? These are just my subordinates.
Whatever they did, it should be my responsibility.
If you didn't want to cut off my power, why would you suddenly kill them? Ziming denied again. Xiao Hua was very surprised.
He didn't understand why Ziming would hide the truth of the matter. Didn't Ziming have a soul item that contained the souls of the demon dwellers?
If he took it out and showed it to G-Man, she would know.
Ziming also said clearly that G-Man and Elder Wu were soul cultivators. It was very unlikely that they would be possessed by the demon dwellers.
Chapter 29:12.
Ha ha ha, G-Man threw his head back and laughed. His laughter was sharp like an owl's. If this old one doesn't bring out the evidence, I'm afraid you'll never admit it. Your personality is exactly the same as that slut's.
Men.
Following G-Man's order, a short, dark-skinned and skinny soul warrior rushed into the hall. Xiao Hua stared at the soul warrior for a long time, but he couldn't see anything. In his eyes, the dark, skinny soul warriors didn't look too different from each other. If they didn't have any obvious characteristics, he might not be able to tell them apart. The soul warrior rushed into the hall and knelt in front of G-Man. He pointed at Ziming, Xiao Hua, and the others and said sorrowfully, G-Man, you must seek justice for young Master Ziyan. They were the ones who worked together to kill young Master Ziyan near the Yellow Sand Ridge.
I risked my life to escape from their hands. I didn't even have the time to collect young Master's corpse. Ji Qing, don't worry. Take your time and tell me all the details clearly. Not only are the elders of the Hutu Stockade here, but there are also G-Man and the others from the Jingapple Stockade. They will definitely seek justice for you and announce this matter to the public. G-Man's tone calmed down as he instructed.
Xiao Hua frowned and raised his head to look. Sure enough, the elders he saw at the back Earth Hall, as well as G-Man and the others from the Jingapple Stronghold, were slowly walking into the hall. Each of them had a look of astonishment on their faces as they looked at the hall strangely.
They seemed to have been summoned by G-Man from all over the place.
Yes.
Ji Qing took a deep breath and said, On that day, young Master Ziyan received the news. As Ji Qing explained the ins and outs of the matter, everyone's face was filled with indignation. According to Ji Qing, Ziyan was the one who fell into Ziming's trap for the sake of Meng Shan's life, and Ziming was the one who wanted to eliminate Ziyan at all costs for the sake of G-Man's position. In the end, Ji Qing even prostrated himself on the ground and said, G-Man, there were dozens of brothers who came back with this little one. We rushed back to the Back Earth Stronghold day and night, but we didn't expect Miss Ziming to set up an ambush along the way. Except for this little one, the other brothers were all killed by her trusted subordinates.
This little one hid in Huanqi Mountain for a long time and didn't dare to show my face. If I didn't meet Elder Yen Su from the Kenji stronghold and know that young Master Ziyi had returned to the embrace of the great god Hutu, many Wu elders and G-Man had gathered at the Back Earth stronghold. This little one wouldn't have dared to ask Elder Yen Su to send this little one back to the Back Earth stronghold.
Sigh.
Xiao Mao couldn't help but sigh when he heard Ji Qing's words. Ji Qing's ability to lie was comparable to Xiao Hua's. Therefore, everything he said was basically true. However, he would always say one or two lies at the end of the story. These few lies would distort the truth of the entire matter, causing people to think that Zi Yan, who was originally an evil person, was the incomparably righteous Zi Yan, while Zi Ming, who was killed, became the main culprit. However, Zi Ming didn't have anything to refute, because she really did kill him afterwards.
How is it?
Ji-Man asked indifferently. Zi Ming, what else do you have to say? Ji-Man killed Zi Yan. The boy doesn't deny it. Zi Ming finally spoke. But why didn't you think that the boy could have dealt with Zi Yan and the 9 divine guards by relying on these few cultivators from the country of Xi? However, just as Zi Ming finished speaking, he sighed again. Sure enough, Ji-Man coldly said. That drought demon was your trap. The 9 divine guards were simply no match for drought demon. You naturally didn't rely on these cultivators, but rather that drought demon. Xiao Hua looked at Xiao Mao and also smiled bitterly. Who would have known that drought demon had pledged allegiance to Xiao Mao later on? Xiao Hua naturally also thought that Zi Ming's maids could testify for her. However, Xiao Hua had seen a few of these maids at the very beginning. Later on, they disappeared without a trace. Obviously, they were killed by Zi Yan. How could they testify? Why wasn't it Zi Yan who set up a trap to deal with the boy? Zi Ming couldn't help but refute. Ji-Man glanced at Zi Ming and Xiao Hua, nodded and said, as the first candidate for Ji-Man's position, if Zi Yan wanted to meddle with the Grand Witch, he could naturally deal with you. But he cares about Meng Mountain and wants to benefit the people of Meng Mountain and save them from danger. Why would he care about the position of Grand Witch?
Look at you.
I already know that this so-called Taoist Xiao has some seeds that can try to solve the current predicament, but for your own selfishness, you used them as the price to haggle with me and Grand Witch. You took these seeds in your own hands. You even want to use these seeds to set up another leader outside of Grand Witch and Ji-Man of Hutu Stronghold, dividing the people of Hutu Stronghold. Zi Ming. Oh Zi Ming, your intentions are terrible.
Seeds?
What seeds? Ji-Man of Jingong Stronghold was puzzled. The seeds taken from the Netherworld Eye, could it be that they can't compare to these seeds? Go and ask him. Ji-Man pointed at another skinny old man in the distance. When the old man saw Ji-Man pointing at him, he quickly walked out from the crowd, bowed and said, I'm Grand Witch of Weeping Fowl Stronghold. More than half a year ago, I learned from the people of Wu Stronghold that they are planting a strange seed. This seed is different from the previous ones. It's not afraid of the drought in Meng Mountain, and it grows very fast, much faster than the previous seeds. Overjoyed, I quickly asked, and only then did I know that it was Miss Zi Ming's doing. Of course, at that time, I guessed that it was Ji-Man's grace to let Miss Zi Ming pick the most difficult Wu stronghold to try. She must not have much confidence, and if she had a result, she would definitely come to me and Grand Witch to discuss this matter. But after waiting for a long time, I didn't receive the summons of Ji-Man and Grand Witch. Instead, I received the bad news of young Master Zai. I came to Hutu Stronghold because I missed young Master Zai, and also because I wanted to ask Ji-Man and Grand Witch about the seeds. But during the entire ceremony, Ji-Man didn't mention anything about the seeds, so I didn't dare to probe further. So, I waited in the stronghold, trying to see if I could get the seeds as soon as possible. After all, although the seeds were useful, they were too little. If Ji-Man could give us more seeds, the people of Weeping Fowl Stronghold wouldn't starve to death anymore. The Grand Witch continued, but after waiting for a long time, I didn't see anything. Thinking of those people who starved to death, I couldn't hold it in any longer. That's why I boldly asked to see Master Ji-Man. You can leave now. Ji-Man nodded. After I get the seeds, I'll give them to Weeping Fowl Stronghold first. Thank you, Ji-Man. The old man bowed and left. Ji-Man, Jing-Apple Stronghold needs more seeds. Ji-Man of Jing-Apple Stronghold quickly shouted. I know. Ji-Man took a deep breath and said, I don't even have a single seed now.
What do you want me to give you?
This. G-Man of Jing Apple's stronghold quickly looked at Ziming. Ziming. This is also the reason why I'm extremely disappointed in you, and why I've completely given up on you. G-Man said, you clearly have the seeds that can save the people of Meng Mountains. Why don't you take them out? Do you think the position of G-Man is more important, or the people of Meng Mountains? If you want the position of G-Man, you only need to tell me. As long as you take out the seeds, even if the soul-setting lamp isn't repaired, even if you can't light up the soul-setting lamp, I can still appoint you as G-Man's successor. I can even give you the position of G-Man right now. Humph, you're so straightforward. But if the boy offers the seeds, I'm afraid you'll be the first to send the boy to meet the great god Hutu. Ziming stiffened his neck and said coldly, but what about now? G-Man's tone was also cold. You've given up your life, but didn't you still give the seeds to me?
Don't you feel regret?
That's right. That day, the boy had already told others. This seeds will eventually be given to the people of Meng Mountains, or when the boy lights up the soul-setting lamp, or when the boy returns to the embrace of the great god Hutu. Therefore, the boy has never felt regret. G-Man. Xiao Hua saw that Ziming was already determined to die, so he quickly called out. Shut up. G-Man scolded and waved the bone staff in her hand.
Xiao Hua immediately couldn't speak.
He couldn't even open his mouth to speak. Xiao Mao and the others were also the same.
It's all because of you Taoist sect cultivators from the country of Xi.
Ziming was originally a good person, but after getting to know you guys, his heart had these filthy thoughts. If you guys didn't talk to him about revenge, or his background, how could he have fallen into such a dead situation?
G-Man said fiercely.
Xiao Hua was anxious. He finally understood why G-Man didn't care about Xiao Mao's matter. Moreover, he also understood that today, G-Man had the intention to kill, and none of them would be able to survive. Xiao Hua's mind spun rapidly, trying to come up with a countermeasure. Unfortunately, his cultivation base was too far away from G-Man, and his entire body was sealed by G-Man. Now, he couldn't use any of his methods, so how could he fight back? I'm afraid this is the only method left. Xiao Hua quickly sent his mind into the mysterious dark cloud. Although that place was sealed by the soul lock, and his soul strands, primordial spirit and little white dragon couldn't come out, his mind still had a trace of connection with his primordial spirit. He urged the primordial spirit in the dark cloud to speed up the practice of the soul strands, so that he could fight back before G-Man killed him. G-Man, Ziming said indifferently, the boy can offer the seeds, but G-Man must agree to one condition of the boy. What condition? G-Man asked back. Young Master Xiao and the others have nothing to do with this matter. They only occasionally got involved. Moreover, these seeds were brought here by young Master Xiao from the country of Xi. As long as you let them go, the boy will immediately offer up the seeds. Ziming glanced at Xiao Hua, who had his eyes closed, and said softly. Sieb hearing this, Xiao Hua immediately opened his eyes. He was wrong. So the reason why Ziming didn't take out the seeds was to use them as a bargaining chip to exchange for a chance to save them. Chapter 29:13. If I don't release them, will you not give me those millet seeds? G-Man sneered. That's right. Those millet seeds, boy, have been taken out of Hutu's stronghold by my subordinates. As soon as they hear the news of the boy's death, they will immediately destroy the soul nest. They don't even know what's inside. Ziming nodded. Haha, look, G-Man pointed with her hand. You are the descendant of Hutu great god, but you don't treat your own people as your own. The trillions of people in Meng Mountain are not even worth a few damn cultivators. If I compromise with you, how am I going to explain to Hutu great god? Not to mention that they killed Luer, I will not let them go. Just because they led you astray, I will kill them. G-Man, Ziming said anxiously, they really have nothing to do with this. Ziyan's death was also because they wanted to save the boy. G-Man waved her hand, stopping Ziming's explanation and said, Don't worry, I will definitely kill them by your side. I will let you know the feeling of your loved one dying before you die. Hearing the words of his loved one, Ziming's face flushed red. The hatred in his eyes faded as he glanced at Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua had his eyes closed and did not know. Fairy Xianxia was a little embarrassed and angry. She glared fiercely at Ming. Poor Fairy Xianxia. Previously, she had been burdened by Jiuxia's matter and was somewhat resentful towards Xiaohua. However, Jiuxia had saved her life. Furthermore, Jiuxia knew when to stop and leave. This made Fairy Xianxia feel somewhat comforted. Now that they came to Hutu's stronghold, this Ming was actually Yi. He actually. Back in Sky Patrol City, before Fairy Xianxia joined the battle, he already had an affair with Xiaohua. How could Fairy Xianxia not be miserable? Now, Fairy Xianxia had not recovered from the joy and shock of knowing that her sister did not die. Once again, she was awakened by G-Man's words. How could she not be angry? Since G-Man knows about this, then, you must know that if young Master Xiao and the others cannot leave safely, that millet boy will definitely be destroyed. Ming said resolutely. Since you have such thoughts, then, you should also understand my feelings. Since they killed Lu Er, this old woman will definitely not let them off. G-Man replied word by word. You're so good at devising strategies, but there's still a flaw. Not to mention that after I kill you all, I can still find the seed in your storage bags. Humph, why don't you try? Ming sneered. G-Man ignored her and continued. Furthermore, since you've already broken off all ties with this old woman, you shouldn't have used this seed on the way back to the Back Earth Stockade. Now, even if I were to kill all of you, with those seeds in Weeping Lychee Stronghold, I have absolute confidence that I can replace all the seeds in Meng Mountains within 100 years. The millet seeds in your hands right now. It doesn't matter if this old woman wants them or not. It was just a matter of starving the people to death. The sins of these people will all be on your head. Humph. Do you think this boy didn't think of this? Speaking up to here, Ming's eyes flashed with a touch of tenderness. Unfortunately, young Master Xiao and the others have the world in their hearts. Although they are not the people of Meng Mountains, they are better than the people of Meng Mountains. When they saw too many people starving to death along the way, they threw their own safety to the back of their minds and insisted on keeping the millet seeds. Although this boy knows that this is not appropriate, it can't stop them from being kind. If they were kind, why would they set a trap in the peacock tomb with you? G-Man didn't believe it at all. She waved her hand and said, The truth has been revealed, and this old woman has said all that I can say. In addition, this old woman has revealed this matter in front of all the elders, and recorded this matter in the Magus Code. Even if the Grand Magus returns, even if the people of Back Earth Stockade ask, this old woman has a reason to reply. Ming, now that things have come to this old woman doesn't want to say anything more. When you return to the embrace of Back Earth Great God, you can reflect on your evil deeds. Xiao Mao didn't know what Xiaohua was doing, but his calmness was different from Li Zongbao's. His corporeal body struggled to break free, and he even opened his mouth to scream. He really wanted to tell the truth, and let Ming take out the soul artifact that imprisoned the demon's soul. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't break free, and he couldn't even say a single word. Fairy Xianxia looked at Li Zongbao, and there was helplessness in both of their eyes. They knew that the danger today was far greater than anything they had ever faced before. When the city gate was on fire, the fish in the moat would also suffer. Perhaps, these 4 Taoist sect disciples who came to Meng Mountains from thousands of miles away were really going to die in the fierce struggle for power in Back Earth Stockade. As for Xiaohua, the only person who could create a miracle, he was trapped in the mysterious dark cloud. Countless soul strands were moving around like lightning, and strands of green light were flashing. One after another, shapeless green seal text was forming and disappearing amidst strange noises. The current situation was somewhat similar to when Xiaohua condensed his core. His endless potential was forced out under the threat of death. Furthermore, Xiaohua didn't have the time to think about how to consume the rejuvenation pill, and how to replenish the loss of his life essence. But, how could the ancient green seal text be so easy to comprehend? How could the so-called witchcraft curse be released so easily by the soul strands? Enter the ancestral hall, after G-Man finished speaking. He looked at Xiaohua and the others with disgust, and then looked at Ming who had an unusually calm face. He waved his hand and gave an order, and then walked out of the hall. Following G-Man's orders, the guards who had just killed Ming's subordinates rushed out, each of them grabbing Xiaohua and the rest. Their hands that were still stained with blood were grabbing Xiaohua and the rest by their necks. As for Fairy Hongxia and Zi Ming, they were helped up by the maidservants and followed behind the guards. After coming out from the hall, Ji Man's face was still pale. What happened to Zi Ming and Zi Yan was a huge blow to her. She had tried her best to maintain the balance of power in Back Earth Stockade, but things had come to a stage that she didn't want to see. The crowd was like a tide, and Ji Man was standing at the tip of the tide. Everyone behind her had a panicked and shocked expression. It was as if they had suddenly woken up in the middle of the night, and suddenly realized that the things that didn't happen in their dreams had actually happened. Young Miss Zi Ming had actually killed Zi Yan, and Ji Man was actually going to kill Zi Ming without Elder Wu's permission. At this moment, the sky was already bright, and a smear of white appeared in the sky. Clouds the size of a fist covered the sky, and the edges of the clouds were faintly golden. When the golden light fell, it illuminated the entire Back Earth Stockade, illuminating the crowd. Following Ji Man, they passed through the various halls of the Back Earth Stockade, and arrived at the back of the mountain. There were also some halls behind the mountain, but these halls were different from the ones in front of the mountain. These halls were all huge. Some were built with large stones, some were supported by huge trees, and each hall was inlaid with countless white bones. Most of the palaces in the front of the mountain were red in color, but these halls were mostly dark green in color. The back of the mountain was rather barren, with rugged rocks and thick withered trees everywhere. Even in between the halls, one could vaguely see some white bones. If Xiaohua opened his eyes right now and saw such a scene, perhaps he wouldn't be as surprised as he was when he saw the palaces in Back Earth Stockade, because this barren scene was what he had imagined the shaman's stronghold to be like. Unfortunately, Xiaohua was casually carried by a dark and skinny guard, like a hunter carrying his prey. Although Xiaohua's forehead would occasionally flash with a green glow, and faint sobbing sounds could be heard coming from the green glow, it didn't attract the guard's attention at all. Walking along the wide mountain path, Ji-Man arrived in front of a huge hall in the time it took to eat a meal. This hall was obviously different from the other halls. Not only was it because the entire hall was white in color, but also because the doors and pillars were all built with white bones. On top of these white bones, countless strange beasts and nether beasts were engraved with an unknown method. These nether beasts were vivid and lifelike, and looked extremely terrifying. The sound mirage beast that Xiaohua and Zi Ming encountered in the Sea of Netherworld was actually one of these nether beasts. Ji-Man came to a stop in front of the door. Waving her hand, she began to mutter something under her breath. A faint green light began to emerge from the bone staff in her hand. But just as she was about to open the soul array, a scorching hot and furious soul scent swept over from afar. Pang pang pang. A series of popping noises followed. Ah! Screams of agony began to ring through the air. Ji-Man sensed it and snorted coldly. The green glow in her hand dissipated, and she turned around to see where the soul sense came from. In the dimly lit sky, an orange-red flame was flying over at an extremely fast speed. In the sky, there were already many guards of Back Earth Stockade riding their soul beasts in front of this flame, but no matter if it was soul beasts or soul warriors, before they could even get close to the flame, a dark red flame flashed around their bodies, and their bodies exploded from the inside out. Blood splattered everywhere, and they fell from the sky. Woo 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 woo, a deep and furious roar came from afar, and an indescribable feeling of dryness suddenly appeared in Ji-Man's heart. They're finally here. Ji-Man's body flashed with green light as she spoke in a low voice. G. In contrast to Ji-Man's calmness, at the foot of the mountain furthest away from Ji-Man, the ground beneath the feet of the soul warriors had already begun to crack open. The originally dry soil was drying up and turning yellow at a speed visible to the naked eye, and grains of yellow sand were gradually forming. The soul warriors couldn't help but begin to panic. Raising their heads to look at the massacre in the sky, they cried out in alarm despite knowing that they couldn't panic. Woo Woo, sensing the arrival of Hanba, Xiao Mao opened his mouth and let out a whimper. He stopped struggling, and a look of joy appeared in his eyes. Boom boom boom. More and more soul warriors flew into the sky to stop Hanba, but they weren't a match for Hanba at all. Hanba's thick palm would raise from time to time, and every time it raised, several soul warriors would turn into a mist of blood. Every time it raised its palm, several soul warriors would scream and fall from the sky with sparks flying all over their bodies. Chapter 29:14. Ka. A sharp cry came from somewhere in the back earth stronghold. Like a command, the spirit warriors that were flying in the air immediately stopped and hurriedly dodged. Then, the 36 white-haired elders waved their bone staffs and flew into the air. It was clear that these 36 elders had been accumulating their power for a long time. Just as they rose into the air, streaks of dark green light were produced from their bone staffs. These streaks of light were like dots of light that constantly moved between them. In just a moment, a huge green net was born between these elders. Swoosh, the moment the green net was formed, a clear sound came from the sky. Countless ghost heads appeared along with this sound. Furthermore, the green light turned into dots, each of which was an extremely small ghost head. Oh, a mournful ghost cry came out from these ghost heads. That cold and bloodthirsty aura immediately filled the entire green net. The strange thing was that after these ghost heads howled in unison, not only did the green brilliance disappear, even the ghost heads disappeared as well. It was as if nothing had ever appeared. Hidorigami had already flown close to the elders. At this moment, Hidorigami was different from before. The red hair on Hidorigami's body had all faded away. It was similar to its face. However, Hidorigami's skin was extremely thick. It looked like the texture of a mountain rock. The phosphorescent runes had also faded away. It looked like an ordinary person. Hanba stopped. An ominous glint appeared in its crimson eyes. Sparks would occasionally appear around its body. At this moment, these sparks suddenly flourished. A somewhat hoarse and furious roar was emitted from Hanba's mouth. A hesitant expression appeared in its eyes. Clearly, it had also sensed the power of the soul formation set up by the 36 elders. However, Hanba only paused for a moment. Then, it raised its hands again. An indescribable heat suddenly appeared near the 36 elders. Swoosh, a layer of faint green light flashed and covered the elders. Several of the elders' skinny faces suddenly bulged with green veins and then disappeared. Seeing that its attack was blocked, Hanba became anxious again. Looking at the distant palace, it suddenly changed its direction and began to land on the ground as if it wanted to burrow into the ground. Unexpectedly, just as Hidorigami moved, 16 of the 36 elders also moved. They flew faster than Hidorigami, and in the blink of an eye, they landed below Hidorigami. Roar! Hidorigami saw these people blocking him, and he waved his hand again. These people's bodies emitted a green light again. Hidorigami's other hand grabbed at the air, and the green light was immediately torn apart. With a muffled bang, another elder's body exploded. The elders to the side didn't think that Hanba would be so strong that the soul formation of 30 people couldn't stop it. Their faces changed. However, the other elders didn't stop. One by one, they flew past Hanba's feet and shook their bone staffs. Wang Wa! A strange buzzing sound came from the bone staffs. A huge green net appeared in front of the 15 elders and wrapped around Hanba. At the same time, the 16 elders who stopped in midair also waved their bone staffs. The green net that disappeared earlier appeared again and covered Hanba from the top to the bottom. Roar! Seeing this, Hanba didn't dare to fly down anymore. Its entire body wanted to escape the range of the green net. Unfortunately, Hanba's flight was still too slow. He had only flown for about 100 feet before the green net began to close up like an inescapable net. The moment the green light came into contact with the net, a sizzling sound was immediately emitted. The brilliance of the light intensified, and the ghost head that had disappeared earlier appeared again with a ferocious expression. It pounced towards Hanba. Roar! Hanba was enraged. The red flames around its body also became brighter. Both of its hands waved continuously. The ghost heads that were pouncing towards it all flashed with a trace of fire and were completely destroyed. What was special was that the flames around Hanba's body were like golden flying swords. The ghost heads that were close to it were pierced through one by one. Amidst the heart-wrenching screams, the giant green net fell into the flames. Zzz-la-la, after a series of noises, the green net bound the flames out of thin air. At the same time, the flames that were previously revealed were covered. The flames actually became much thinner. What was special was that after the green net fell, each of the green lights started to swim. They were like thin pythons that coiled around Hanba's body. Roar! Hanba roared. Its entire body expanded. The flames also expanded as if it wanted to break free from the green light. Unfortunately, the 35 surviving elders waved their bone staffs at the same time.
Countless green lights fell into the green net. As Hanba expanded, the green net also extended. There were no signs of it being destroyed. On the other hand, the flames around Hanba's body became even thinner. Although both of its hands were grabbing onto the green light and trying its best to tear it apart, every time it tore apart a green light, another green light would appear. Moreover, even more ghost heads appeared out of thin air. They were like flies that saw blood. They pounced on Hanba's body and opened their mouths, wanting to devour Hanba's essence blood.
Humph, it's only as a...
G-Man sneered from afar.
He was about to wave the bone staff in his hand again.
However, at this moment, two loud sounds came from the air around Hanba and G-Man.
Ah!
G-Man was shocked. She hurriedly looked towards the source of the sound. At this moment, Xiaohua had already opened his eyes. The spirit treasure soul lock that was imprisoning his body was currently emitting an intense sound. What was special was that the bone spikes that were pressing against Xiaohua's forehead and the back of his head were currently being restrained by a layer of dense green light. Furthermore, the green light was flashing more and more, gradually covering Xiaohua's head. The loud sound came from within the green light. Green seal text? G-Man was even more shocked when she saw it. She could clearly see that the flashing green light was the green seal text that was gradually forming. Furthermore, following the formation of the green seal text, a familiar sound gradually came out. This sound was like the sound of thunder, but also like the sound of flowing water. It came from afar and came closer. It stopped in her ears and was born in her heart. Not only that, following the sound, an indescribable feeling emerged from G-Man's heart. She looked at Xiaohua's surroundings in disbelief. Furthermore, following the sound, she looked towards the sky. The formation of the green seal text actually caused a phenomenon in the sky. Strands of dark clouds came from all directions and gradually gathered above Ho-Tu's stronghold. This. G-Man couldn't help but take in a breath of cold air. This was a divine ability that even she didn't have before. That's right, at this moment, Xiaohua had already gradually figured out the method to pronounce the green seal text. Within the mysterious dark clouds, the tiny green seal text overlapped one another and emitted a loud sound. This sound shook the soul lock's imprisonment and wanted to break it apart. Unfortunately, Xiaohua only had the cloud summoning rain talisman. This talisman didn't have any offensive power. Furthermore, Xiaohua's green seal text wasn't completely successful. Even if he wanted to break free from the soul lock's imprisonment, he still couldn't do so. Now, it even attracted G-Man's attention.
Humph!
G-Man was shocked and resentment appeared in her eyes. She opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. As she waved her bone staff, a green light appeared in her mouth. When the green light landed on the blood essence immediately exploded and turned into a ghost head. The ghost head screamed and rushed into Xiaohua's head. Following the disappearance of the ghost head, the green light around Xiaohua's head also gradually disappeared. The sound of the green seal text also gradually stopped and the dark clouds that filled the sky also slowly dispersed. Xiaohua's final struggle was also broken by G-Man. Sigh, Xiaohua sighed. He knew that he was already at his wit's end. G-Man's gaze coldly swept across the dejected Xiaohua, then he looked into the distance. The other loud sound just now came from where Hanba was. Hanba's body flashed with a red brilliance, and a huge illusory figure appeared from its body. It seemed to be formed by strange red runes, and it grew bigger and bigger. In the moment that G-Man imprisoned Xiaohua again, the phantom had already grown to more than 10 feet. The green light and ghost head that were binding Hanba was blocked by the phantom. The soul power of the 35 elders seemed to be insufficient to support the green light. As the light flickered, the phantom actually showed signs of collapsing. Hanba. As expected of great god Shibai's descendant. G-Man sighed. Her body flashed with a green light again. Like a green rainbow, she shot into the sky and appeared right above Hanba's phantom in the blink of an eye. Everyone's eyes were focused on G-Man. They wanted to see what she would do. However, G-Man simply stretched out her hand and a green light appeared at her fingertips. The moment this green light appeared, it was as bright as a star. It was even brighter than the rising sun. With some difficulty, G-Man pointed her finger and the green light landed on the phantom. Roar! As the green light entered his body, Hidorigami let out an extremely painful roar.
The shadow rapidly shrank, and the green light that bound Hidorigami's body rapidly expanded. In the blink of an eye, Hidorigami returned to his original form. The green shadow was like a giant python that bound Hidorigami tightly. Sigh, Xiao Mao sighed in his heart. He was also dejected. He looked at Xiao Hua and wanted to shake his head but couldn't move. He could only smile bitterly. Only Zi Ming's gaze was hesitant. She wanted to look at Xiao Hua but was also worried about Fairy Xianxia. However, there was clearly some worry in her eyes. This was because when Xiao Hua let out that loud noise, she had clearly heard the sound of the green seal text. Although she didn't know how Xiao Hua activated the talisman, she was very clear in her heart that activating this mysterious talisman consumed life essence. She should give the rejuvenation pill to Xiao Hua, but she couldn't move right now, so how could she take it out? However, when she saw that Xiao Hua's face was still the same, she was puzzled. Could it be that she heard wrongly? Hanba was captured by Ji-Man. Just like Xiao Mao and the others, its burly body struggled with all its might. The flames around its body were also faintly discernible. Unfortunately, the flames were extinguished as soon as they appeared. It seemed to have no effect on the green light. Hanba's hands were also waving non-stop. However, no matter what, it couldn't use the powerful bloodline power from before. Chapter 29:15. Humph! Ji-Man snorted coldly once again. With a point of his finger, Hidorigami immediately fell from the sky like a huge boulder. With a loud boom, it smashed into the foot of the mountain, shattering a huge boulder at the foot of the mountain. Watch this thing carefully, Ji-Man instructed. Turning around, he transformed into a streak of light and charged towards the hall. The 35 elders did not dare to be negligent. They descended from the air and surrounded Hanba. Green light was faintly discernible on their bone staffs. Clearly, they were on high alert. Ji-Man's figure appeared in front of the palace door. The bone staff glowed with green light again. Ji-Man waved his hand and the green light streaked across the sky like a sharp sword. A green crack appeared in the air in front of the palace door. This crack slowly split open and pulled to both sides. At the same time, the green light rolled up like a rolling curtain. Roar! The green light rolled up halfway. A roar came from the green light and the two green lights turned into a beast's head. The beast head became slightly more solid, then turned around and charged toward the two deathly white bone doors at the entrance of the palace. With a loud boom, the beast's head sank into the bone doors. The two bone doors glowed with green light and blood gradually appeared. It was like the blood in the netherworld sea. It flowed along the bone doors. When the entire bone doors were covered by the blood, Ji-Man opened his mouth and chanted in the Hutu village's witchcraft language. A flight of stairs gradually appeared in the blood. It extended from the bone doors and extended to Ji-Man's feet. The blood gradually turned into a ferocious beast's head. It opened its bloody mouth and waited to devour the guests on the stairs. Ji-Man glanced at the stairs under his feet and slowly stepped onto it. The stairs changed and brought Ji-Man's body into the mouth of the beast head that was formed by the palace door. As for the guards, when they saw Ji-Man go, they quickly grabbed Xiao Mao and the others. Especially the guard who was freed from Xiao Hua's hands by using the green seal scripture. He kicked Xiao Hua fiercely a few times before grabbing Xiao Hua's neck and jumping up the stairs. The stairs were also strange. As the guards jumped up, the stairs suddenly widened. It did not feel crowded when the few of them stood together. Naturally, the rest of the people also stepped onto the stairs after the guards. Xiao Hua's face was facing down. He could only see the stairs constantly changing, followed by a blood-red color and the smell of blood. In the end, Xiao Hua saw a ground full of bones and skeletons. Plop! Xiao Hua was casually thrown to the ground like an object. Only now did he have the chance to raise his face and see the situation of this hall clearly. Just as Xiao Hua thought, the ancestral shrine of Hutu village was this huge bone hall. There were no pillars in the center of the bone hall. The roof of the hall was made of bones and skeletons, and the floor was also made of bones and skeletons. In fact, it was not clear which was the floor and which was the roof. At the top of the hall was a blood-red curtain that blocked everyone's view. What was behind the curtain couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Not even soul sense or divine sense could see through it. Ji-Man quietly stood in front of the curtain. Her eyes stared at the blood-red curtain, and two traces of blood could be seen in her eyes. Cough cough. After everyone who could enter the ancestral shrine had entered, Ji-man coughed twice, turned around, and raised her hand. It was the token of Senior Wu. With a cold voice she said, "Everyone, you have all seen it." For the sake of Ji-man's position, Ziming had schemed a lot. Not only did he use Hutu village's Hanba as bait to lure Xian, then he used Hanba's bloodline power to kill Xian. Furthermore, he had also leaked the secret of Meng Mountain to the cultivators of Dao sect. As a cultivator of Dao sect, this Xiao Hua actually knows some witchcraft arts. This old woman really doesn't know how many secrets Ziming had leaked out. Ziming's evil deeds have already violated the teachings of our ancestors. Although he is the primary candidate for Ji-man, this old woman has decided to send him back to the embrace of Hutu Great God, so that he can reflect on his actions. As for these cultivators of Dao sect, they are the murderers of Xian. This old woman will also exterminate them to avenge Xian. After she finished speaking, Ji-man turned around and faced the blood-red curtain. She knelt down, and a voice of yin and yang came out from her mouth. It seemed like she was praying, but also seemed like she was telling something. All the soul warriors and elders behind her also knelt down, and a similar voice came out from their mouths. Following these voices, strands of green light slowly appeared, and floated towards the blood-red curtain. After the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, the green light on the blood-red curtain increased, and gradually formed a layer of green mist. At this moment, Ji-man stood up from the ground and raised the token in her hand. The token flew into the air and rushed into the mist. With a buzzing sound, all of the mist was sucked in by the token. The token trembled for a moment, then turned into a strange beast head the size of a fist. The beast head suddenly opened its bloody mouth, and a beam of green light shot out, landing on the blood-red curtain. The curtain gradually opened, and a huge statue of Hutu Great God appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Whoa! A series of strange high-pitched sounds came from the mouths of the Hutu stronghold's residents. Everyone piously knelt down again. The gigantic statue of a deity was floating in midair, and the two hands in front of it were holding two jade snakes in a hugging posture. There were many thumb-sized bone grains in front of the statue, and each bone grain was engraved with strange runes. These should be the sacrificial tablets of the Hutu stronghold's ancestors. These bone grains were densely packed, and they floated between the arms and the jade snakes, as if they had really returned to Hutu Great God's embrace. Below the statue, there was a small sacrificial table. The table wasn't empty, and besides a few flickering green candles, there was a furry thing lying lazily on the table. At this moment, the furry thing seemed to have been awakened by the noise. It poked its head out from the table, and it looked like a dog's head. However, as the dog's head poked out, a faint beam of light shot out from its mouth. As the light grew more and more sinister, wisps of blood-red light appeared in the air above the ancestral hole, and mournful cries could be heard. On top of the dog's head, the two sparkling eyes on its head swept across the soul cultivators, and a kind of fear that came from the soul cultivators' souls was born. Aside from a few old soul cultivators whose bodies were flashing with green light, the rest of the soul cultivators fell to the ground and bowed with trembling bodies. When Ji-man saw that the dog had been awakened, she hurriedly bowed and began to chant some strange incantations. The black dog aimlessly glanced at the people kneeling before the offering table. Suddenly, its little nose wrinkled and its entire body trembled. With a whoosh, the black dog flew up from the offering table. Like a black lightning bolt, it rushed in front of the crowd. The people kneeling on the ground were like stones in a pond. They were so scared that they rolled around on the ground. It was as if they were extremely afraid of the black dog. However, to everyone's surprise, that black dog didn't pay attention to anyone. Instead, it obediently flew in front of Xiao Hua, who was half lying on the ground. Woof 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 woof, a burst of joyful barks sounded. That black dog actually started to happily play around in the air. In the end, it actually landed on Xiao Hua's shoulder, leaving everyone dumbstruck. This. Ji-man looked at all of this in a daze. She knew that Ziming had already served this sacred beast for dozens of years. If she were to use Elder Wu's token in the ancestral hall, it would inevitably alarm the sacred beast. Perhaps, it would disrupt her plans. However, she already had a plan to deal with it. But what she never expected was that the sacred beast was indeed alarmed. Moreover, it wasn't an ordinary alarm. But the one who alarmed the sacred beast wasn't Ziming, but that mysterious Xiao Hua. Ji-man could clearly feel the sacred beast's ecstasy and attachment.
Zhang Xiaohua?
Ji-man suddenly came to a realization. She once again looked at Xiao Hua with an inconceivable gaze. This is the sword practitioner that the sacred beast is looking for.
Zhang Xiaohua?
Daddy. When the black dog landed on Xiao Hua's shoulder, a voice emerged from the bottom of Xiao Hua's heart. It made Xiao Hua somewhat confused. But when the black dog's warm tongue licked his ear, Xiao Hua's heart trembled. He hurriedly replied, You are Little Black. Daddy, Little Black replied. It happily leaped over Xiao Hua's head and landed on his other shoulder. At this moment, in the ancestral hall, everyone was stunned like clay statues. They forgot to fear and tremble. Even Zi Ming, who was extremely familiar with the sacred beast, was unable to react. Her thoughts were the same as Ji-man's. She didn't know how Xiao Hua became the flying sword-wielding Zhang Xiaohua that the sacred beast was talking about. Woo! Little Black happily jumped a few times. Seeing that Xiao Hua didn't react, it angrily whimpered a few times. It opened its mouth and with a ha sound, a white light flashed. It spat on the dark green light that was binding Xiao Hua. The moment the light touched the white light, it immediately melted. Sacred beast! Ji-man hurriedly shouted. Immediately after, she uttered some incomprehensible shaman language, as if she was asking something. Who would have thought that at this moment, Little Black completely ignored Ji-man? It immediately flew up from Xiao Hua's shoulder and barked randomly. This. Ji-man hesitated. She didn't need to communicate with the sacred beast. She also knew that the sacred beast wanted her to release Xiao Hua. But if she released Xiao Hua, Zi Ming would naturally be released as well. Then, how would she repay Zi Yan's revenge? Woof woof, Little Black urged again. It seemed that it was already somewhat anxious. Ji-man bit her lips tightly. The expression on her face changed several times. She was really somewhat unwilling. She finally made the decision. She was finally going to take revenge. But at this final stage, there was a variable that she couldn't resist. Could she let go? Kill? A trace of ominous light flashed through Ji-man's eyes. Chapter 29:16. However, the ferocious glint in her eyes disappeared in a flash. Ji-man did not dare to kill the Saint Beast even though she was confident. Because she wasn't confident and didn't dare to kill all the elders in the ancestral shrine. Moreover, she didn't dare to destroy the entire Hutu stronghold's foundation. Is it wrong for me to avenge Lu-er? Hutu God! Why is she so unfair to me? Ji-man clenched her fists and murmured to herself as warmth gushed out from her eyes. Ji-man! A gentle voice came from the palace door in the distance. Elder Wu? Ji-man sniffed and looked over, only to see a slightly dark and skinny young man walking over from there. This young man looked very ordinary, but his eyes were extremely bright, like the twinkling stars of the morning. Moreover, this young man walked slowly, step by step in the air. His figure was faintly discernible, and in the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Ji-man. Greetings, Elder Wu. Ji-man didn't dare to be negligent and bowed. Everyone in the ancestral shrine also bowed with Ji-man, and the respect in their eyes was even greater than when they saw Little Black. Woof 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 woof. Only Little Black continued to bark in the air, not afraid of this young man. He, Elder Wu had a warm smile on his face as he reached out his hand and patted Little Black's head. Don't be impatient, don't be impatient. Then, Elder Wu pointed his finger, and a green light that was almost invisible to the naked eye appeared from his hand and landed on Xiao Hua's body. The dozens of dark green pythons immediately disappeared. Immediately after, Old Wu made a grabbing motion with his hand, and the soul lock that bound Xiao Hua also broke free from Xiao Hua's body and landed in his hand. Finally, Old Wu frowned slightly, and with a flick of his right hand's middle finger, a ball of blood-red brilliance also flew out from Xiao Hua's head and dissipated in the air. Xiao Hua completely regained his freedom. He stood up from the ground and respectfully said, Junior Xiao Hua of the Imperial Thunder Sect greets Senior. Xiao Hua? You're not Zhang Xiaohua? Old Wu also seemed to be surprised as he looked at Xiao He. At this moment, Xiao He was very happy. He had already landed on Xiaohua's head and messed up Xiaohua's hair. Junior's name might be Zhang Xiaohua, but Junior's name is Xiaohua now. Xiaohua looked at Elder Wu's gentle expression and didn't hide anything, carefully replying.
Oh, I see.
Nodding his head, Old Wu looked at Ziming, Fairy Xianxia and the rest. Finally, he looked at G-Man who had yet to get up and asked, G-Man, please get up.
What's going on?
I beg Elder Wu to make the decision and seek justice for my dead Lu-er. G-Man refused to get up and said in a sorrowful voice.
Ziyan, what's wrong? When did he return to Huta Great God's embrace?
Elder Wu was also surprised, and he hurriedly asked. Of course it was Ziming's doing. G-Man said hatefully. Otherwise, how could I tie her up and bring her to the ancestral hall?
How could I alarm the sacred beast?
Emma. Elder Wu nodded his head slightly, glancing at Ziming. He didn't instruct G-Man to release Ziming and the rest, but asked indifferently, Have you investigated? Yes, I have investigated, and Ziming has admitted it himself. G-Man replied.
I got it. Please get up.
Elder Wu's expression didn't change. Tell me the whole story. Now that we are in the ancestral hall, I may not have the authority to punish others. If Ziming really killed Ziyan, I will give Ziyan an explanation right here.
Yes, I thank Elder Wu.
Hearing that, G-Man hurriedly got up and repeated the whole story. Then she pointed her finger downwards and said, The elders and gods were all present. I was afraid that there might be a mistake, so I brought them to the ancestral hall. If Elder Wu doesn't believe me, you can ask them. All right, Elder Wu nodded his head, looked at Xiaohua and asked, What G-Man said, do you admit it? Xiaohua smiled and shook his head, replying, Although most of what G-Man said is true, she got it wrong. The one who set the trap is Ziyan, not Ziming. Furthermore, this Ziyan is definitely not the Luer that G-Man spoke of. He is Luer who has been possessed by the devil. Ziming has solid evidence. Elder Wu only needs to take a look to know. Luer has been possessed? This is impossible. Not only was Elder Wu stunned, even G-Man turned pale with fright and denied it. Sigh, the devil's methods are getting more and more brilliant. Elder Wu was clearly starting to believe Xiaohua. With a sigh, he said to G-Man, Release Ziming, this old man will question him. G-Man asked in disbelief, Xiaohua, if Ziming has solid evidence, then previously. At this point, G-Man couldn't ask any further. She already understood that Ziming wouldn't give this evidence to her even if he had to risk his life. That was an extreme distrust of her. G-Man's face paled slightly, and she released Ziming, Fairy Xianxia and the rest. Ziming ignored G-Man, bowing towards Elder Wu and said, Boy greets Elder Wu. It's been hard on you. Elder Wu waved his hand and said, Tell me everything that happened.
Yes.
Ziming replied, and told Elder Wu everything that happened after he left the Back Earth stronghold. He even told Elder Wu about Master Qin's death. In the end, Ziming stretched out his hand, and his index finger cut across his calf like a knife. With a flash of blood, the soul artifact that contained the devil's soul was taken out from his flesh, and he raised his hand to present it to Elder Wu. Seeing this soul artifact, G-Man's face turned even paler. She already understood that Ziming was telling the truth. Ziyan was no longer Ziyan, the one who killed Ziyan was the devil in this soul artifact, and Ziming could even be said to have avenged Ziyan. G-Man, do you want to see it or me? Elder Wu took the soul bead, and instructed Ziming to heal his wounds, then asked G-Man, Elder Wu, please see. G-Man shook her head slightly. This concubine wants to avoid suspicion. All right, Elder Wu didn't decline, and his starry eyes stared at the soul bead. A strand of green crystal came out from between his eyebrows and entered the soul bead. Traces of blood red seeped out from the soul orb and entered Venerable Wu's forehead through the crystal thread. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Venerable Wu finally retrieved the crystal thread and looked at G-Man with a complicated expression. Was this concubine wrong? G-Man couldn't help but ask, how many devil's minions are there in the Back Earth stronghold? You were wrong. But it's good that you didn't make a big mistake. Elder Wu said lightly, and then his mouth moved a few times. G-Man heard, and couldn't help but be surprised. Elder Wu's face was also gloomy. He threw the soul bead in his hand, and it landed in front of Blackie. Xiaohua opened his mouth slightly, and with a ha sound, a white light came out of his mouth and sprinkled on the soul bead. A pitch-black shadow let out a mournful cry and was sucked into his stomach. After Blackie ate the devil's soul, he actually did the same thing as Goldie. He stretched his waist, and his blood-red tongue touched the corner of his mouth. Then, he laid on Xiaohua's shoulder and seemed to be drowsy. Xiaohua looked at Blackie, and used his hand to stroke its smooth fur. He smiled and asked, "Elder Wu, this is this junior's Blackie. This junior wants to take it away." "Yes, although this is the sacred beast of our back earth stronghold, it still came from the heavens. From the day it asked this old man to look for you, this old man knew that it would leave the back earth stronghold." Elder Wu nodded slightly. "Moreover, the sacred beast is a sacred beast because it was bestowed by the heavens. The sacred beast's whereabouts are arranged by the great God. How can we, the people, decide for the sacred beast?" "Many thanks, Elder Wu." Xiaohua smiled and temporarily placed Blackie in his arms. "Farewell, sacred beast," Xiaohua said casually, but the elders of the back earth stronghold did not dare to be negligent. Everyone knelt on the ground again. "Thank you, great God Hutu, for your grace." As if it heard everyone's kowtows, Blackie actually poked its little head out from Xiaohua's arms. With a ha sound, it spat out a white light, and then shrank back. "I've made you suffer." Elder Wu looked at Fairy Xianxia and the rest and said kindly. Fairy Xianxia and the rest hurriedly bowed. This junior greets Elder Wu. "This is nothing. As long as we can clear Miss Zi Ming's grievances, we are already satisfied." "Sigh, it's all because this old woman was too anxious and believed in slanderous words," Ji-man also hurriedly said. Fairy Xianxia and the rest glanced at the calm Zi Ming and quickly bowed. This matter is too much of a coincidence, and Ji-man is also concerned about her family. This junior can understand. Ji-man looked at Zi Ming's expression, and her heart sank. She knew that the family she had accumulated for dozens of years had been poured down like a torrential flood in less than a day. Zi Ming's heart had already built a strong dam, and no matter how hard she tried, it would be impossible for her to reach the same level as before. Sure enough, Zi Ming glanced at everyone and said calmly, "Boy knows that he is not good at expanding, but he is good at protecting what he has built. He has never put the safety of the people of Meng Mountains aside. Furthermore, I don't care how others look at Boy. Boy only does what he thinks is right. It doesn't matter if you understand or misunderstand. Once something has happened, then, we can never go back to how we were before." Elder Wu smiled, and an indescribable charm immediately appeared on his ordinary-looking face. He pointed his finger and said, "Zi Ming is right, Ji-man is also right. Everything that happened before today has turned into water. We can never go back to how we were before. A mistake is a mistake, and no amount of compensation can change what has been done wrong. Since we can admit our mistakes and never make the same mistake again, that is the right thing to do. How can we be completely right when we govern Wu Stockade? As long as we have the people in our hearts, we can handle things impartially, and we have a clear conscience. As for the mistakes that we can't go back to how we were before, let it be an eternal mistake. Let it be a lesson for us. Without the past, without the present, how can there be a future? Only when there is rain can there be a rainbow. Only then can we know the beauty of Meng Mountains. Hutu Stockade is one of the 12 great stockades of Meng Mountains. How could we have gone through such a simple storm? If we, the descendants of the great god Hutu, are defeated by such a trivial matter, hee. Wouldn't we become a joke to the original Taoist Shao of the country of Xi? Chapter 29:17. Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. Venerable Wu and Ji-man had mentioned his name twice in a row. That Ji-man was still fine, but she should have sensed the situation with them. Since Venerable Wu of Bai Lu Stronghold could mention the name Taoist Shao, then Ji-man could too. However, Venerable Wu was different. He had just returned from outside, and Zi Ming had told him that he was ordered by the Shaman King to go deep into Meng Mountains. How could he know so clearly? Thinking of Venerable Wu's situation, Xiaohua naturally thought of Xue Mingcha of Sword Domain. Since she could also mention his name, although there was still some doubt in her tone, since she could think of it, how could the others not know? Since the sword cultivators knew, how could the cultivators of Dao sect not know? There is no such thing as an impenetrable wall in this world.
Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Perhaps the current nascent soul masters already know Wu Ming's origin. Looks like I'll have to seek advice from Han Zhu about my Buddhist cultivation. I'll see how I can conceal it better. Everything in Hutu stronghold and Meng mountains was arranged by the great hands of Hutu great god and the other 12 great gods. It was all to temper and sharpen us, the descendants of the great gods. Only after going through the hardships of Hutu stronghold today, can we understand the value of family, trust, and selflessness. Only after going through the drought of Meng mountains can we understand the importance of hard work and toil, and the importance of Meng mountains to us. Venerable Wu saw Xiaohua frown and ignored him. He then said to Ziming and the others, all the disasters now have shown us that no matter if it's the demons, swordsmen, or cultivators, even the soul warriors and natives of Meng mountains, they all have some unfathomable intentions. They always want to realize their own schemes and satisfy their own selfish desires. They treat the lives of billions of people in Meng mountains as grass, and treat Meng mountains as a chess piece. They even treat the world as their own slaughterhouse. This is something that we, the descendants of the 12 great gods, cannot tolerate. This destroys the tradition of our billions of people peacefully guarding Meng mountains. Yes, we'll listen to senior shaman's instructions. When everyone heard this, they were all excited and cheered in unison. Even though there were still some sounds among these calls, and there were still some shaman language that Xiaohua and the others couldn't understand. Obviously, Grandmaster Wu's words were meant for Xiaohua and the others to hear. Then, Grandmaster Wu spoke again, but this time, Xiaohua and the others couldn't understand the shaman language. Following Grandmaster Wu's orders, groups of guards were led out by the elders. In just a short while, only Grandmaster Wu, Ji-Man, Xiaohua and the others were left in the ancestral hall. The current Hutu stronghold is in some trouble. I believe Taoist Master Xiao has already seen it. This old man was aware of this situation long ago and has already made preparations. However, I never thought that the devil cultivator's attack would be so intense that even Ziyan's body would be possessed. It seems that this old man will be busy for a while in the coming days. Grandmaster Wu said to Xiaohua in a very amiable manner. Therefore, I would like to ask Taoist Xiao to stay in my back earth village for a few days. After this old man has finished dealing with the secular affairs, I will discuss with Taoist Xiao. No problem, Xiaohua smiled. Although this Grandmaster Wu looked very ordinary, but since he appeared in the ancestral hall, every action and word of his attracted everyone's gaze and attention. Furthermore, Grandmaster Wu's words were neither hot nor cold, and were extremely pleasant to the ears. His fairness and strictness were self-evident, which made Xiaohua's heart filled with admiration. Xiaohua naturally took this kind of senior's words to heart. He bowed and said, Junior and the others will listen to senior's arrangements. Ji-Man, follow this old man to the back earth palace. Grandmaster Wu nodded and ordered Ji-Man. Ji-Man also replied respectfully, Yes, this concubine understands. Ziming, now that you have repaired the soul-falling lamp, and Ziye's matter has also been settled, rest for a day and then come to the back earth palace. Grandmaster Wu looked at Ziming, who was in a daze and looking straight at the ground, and said. Ziming's situation seemed to be very emotional about Grandmaster Wu's words, and he actually didn't hear Grandmaster Wu's order clearly. After Grandmaster Wu finished speaking, he suddenly understood and asked curiously as if he had just woken up from a dream. Boy, why are you going to the back earth palace? Ha ha ha, Grandmaster Wu laughed and didn't say another word. He raised his feet and walked away like a shadow. Ji-Man looked at Ziming apologetically, and a trace of a bitter smile appeared on the corner of her mouth, and also walked out of the ancestral hall. Ziming looked at the backs of the two people leaving, and an extremely complicated expression appeared on his face. He opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. What should have happened had happened, and what should have been said had been said. It seemed that what happened before was different from before, but thinking carefully, what changed? What didn't change? Ziming. Xiaohua's voice sounded in Ziming's ears. Grandmaster Wu is right. Yesterday is yesterday, today is today, and tomorrow is tomorrow. You still have to think carefully. This concubine understands. It's easy to say, but when it comes to doing, how can it be so simple to truly understand? Ziming looked at Xiaohua with a bitter smile.
Fairy Xianxia was originally dissatisfied with Ziming, but at this moment, she felt pity in her heart, and said softly, "Sigh, life is always unpredictable, and the joys and sorrows of separation are the main taste. Miss Ziming, your heart must be strong." As she spoke, Fairy Xianxia also looked at Li Zongbao. Ever since Li Zongbao used the Netherworld mirror and didn't see Kai Zhuoxia's image, he hadn't said a word. Even when he was captured by G-Man, he didn't say a word, and didn't resist at all, as if he had lost his soul. Fairy Xia's words were meant for Li Zongbao to hear. Unfortunately, Li Zongbao still looked at the ground indifferently, and ignored her. "Ayo Xiaohua." At this moment, Ziming suddenly cried out, and took out the rejuvenation pill, and handed it to Xiaohua. "Quickly take the rejuvenation pill. Quickly replenish your life essence." "What?" Fairy Xianxia was also anxious, and asked curiously, "Xiaohua, when did you?" However, Fairy Xianxia hesitated when she saw Xiaohua's face. She had seen Grandmaster Qin Qin's condition after she entered the soul-refining cave, and knew what it was like to have one's life essence damaged. At this moment, Xiaohua's face was glowing, and there wasn't a single wrinkle on his face. No matter how she looked at it, it didn't look like his life essence was damaged. "Is that so?" Xiaohua actually didn't feel anything. He was forced to do it, and his life was almost gone, so what was the point of wanting his life essence? Moreover, he was only able to use half of the cloud summoning rain spell before it was sealed by G-Man, and the green seal text was not completely released. As for whether this spell could damage his life essence, Xiaohua didn't know. Touching his smooth cheeks, he was a little dazed. "Using half of a spell. Can it damage my life essence?" Xiaohua thought for a while and asked. "Of course," Ziming was a little anxious and urged. "Witchcraft is the essence of heaven and earth. How can we mortals use it? We can only rely on life essence to replenish the heaven and earth essence consumed by witchcraft. Not to mention using half of it, as long as it is used, it will be damaged." "But I don't feel anything." Xiaohua smacked his lips. "Why don't we wait a little longer? This rejuvenation pill is also quite precious." Ziming was about to cry, and stamped her feet. "Young Master Xiao, I'm not joking with you. The taboo power of my Meng Mountain's witchcraft is not something you know. That is the power of a great god, not the magic power of a cultivator, and not some spell formed by heaven and earth spiritual energy." All right, seeing Ziming in a hurry, Xiaohua quickly caught the rejuvenation pill, and said, "How about this? I'll take the rejuvenation pill first. I'll see when the life essence starts to be damaged, and when there is something wrong, I'll immediately take the rejuvenation pill. This way, I'll also know how powerful that witchcraft is, right?" "All right. Young Master Xiao can decide for yourself." Ziming helplessly shook her head, but a moment later she thought of something, and said in a low voice, "What was the witchcraft spell that young Master Xiao used just now? When did young Master cultivate it?" "This witchcraft spell. Even my Hutu village's elder Wu can't use it." "It's a long story," Xiaohua said with a smile. "This is the spell evolved from my cloud-summoning rain talisman." "Ah." Without waiting for Xiaohua to finish, Ziming was shocked, and said involuntarily, Isn't this great god Xianming's rain-summoning technique?" "Hee, I don't know," Xiaohua said with a smile, "but I got it from somewhere in Meng country. This witchcraft spell can't attack, but young master risked his life to activate it. I'm afraid it's useless." Ziming sighed. Xiaohua said in all seriousness, "Even so at that time, this Xiao couldn't just surrender without putting up a fight. It's all my fault for dragging young Master Xiao and the others into danger." Ziming blamed herself again. "I'm afraid G-Man will think that I leaked the secret of Meng Mountain." Hearing this, Xiaohua shook his head and said, "Ziming, Elder Wu's words are very good. You go back and reflect on it. I won't say anything." Xiao and the others came to Meng Mountain. According to you soul cultivators, it was Hutu Great God who sent us here. Even this witchcraft spell was instructed by Hutu Great God. If it's related to you, it was Hutu Great God who sent you to Sentry City and let you get to know me. All the cause and effect originated from Hutu Great God. I understand. Ziming smiled slightly. Daoist Zhao's trip to Meng Mountain is very important to the people of Meng Mountain. Judging from Elder Wu's expression just now, it's far from the distress when the drought just started. I'm sure you already know how powerful Taoist Xiao is. Hi, that's right, this Xiao has a hard life. Xiao Hua shrugged his shoulders casually with a pitiful appearance.
Hee, Ziming laughed. He was really happy now.
Let's go, Fairy Hongxia's heart skipped a beat, and she urged. Elder Wu has already asked Ziming to go to Huda Palace.
It's also a chance for Ziming.
Let's rest early and let Ziming have some peace. Ziming lowered his head, and Xiao Hua acted as if he didn't hear it. Xiao Mao said tactfully, that's right, I've been tortured by this old Bai Ji man. Even my mother's portrait is only half done. I still have to finish it while I'm free.
Chapter 29:18.
Young Master Xiao, please, Ziming lowered her head. Her ears were burning as she quickly walked in front of him. Her feelings for Xiao Hua were actually not that deep. It was only because no one was able to enter her eyes. Xiao Hua's temperament was completely different from the millions of Meng Mountain spirit warriors, and he did not have the slightest bit of flattery. That was why he immediately entered her heart. Today's experience, which could not be considered a lingering and frightening experience, had deepened her impression of him, making it somewhat hazy. This hazy feeling had always been a secret, and she did not want Fairy Hongxia to know about it. However, Ji-Man had pointed it out. Now that Fairy Hongxia was on guard, she naturally felt embarrassed.
All right, Ziming, there is something that I feel is strange about. I would like to ask a few more questions.
Xiao Hua spoke again at an inappropriate time, causing Fairy Hongxia to stare at him with a bit of anger and embarrassment. Young Master Xiao, please speak. Ziming lowered her head slightly and looked up slightly, asking in a low voice. Regarding Ziyan, I am somewhat puzzled. I have always wanted to ask about it. Xiao Hua did not care about this, and spoke out the doubts in his heart. Ziyan was possessed by a demon, so he did not fall. Perhaps his natal spirit tablet would not shatter. However, Hanba killed Ziyan, and Miss Ziming took away the demon's remnant soul. Does that mean that the natal spirit tablet would not shatter before the soul was destroyed? Why did Ji-Man not know about this? Why did she only make things difficult now? Oh, so this is what young Master Xiao is puzzled about. Ziming understood and smiled. That natal spirit tablet is only a magic of your Dao sect. There is nothing similar among Meng Mountain's spirit cultivators. Oh, why not? If you had this item, you and Ji-Man, wouldn't there be so many misunderstandings? Xiao Hua asked in astonishment. Ziming's face was slightly pale. She said indifferently, if we had this item, the incident with Ziyi would not have happened. After thinking for a moment, Ziming said, I believe young Master Xiao already knows about the power of bloodline. It is the foundation of Meng Mountain spirit cultivators' spirit techniques. And I know a little. Xiao Hua nodded. Master Kuqin had already told him about this. Simply speaking, the power of bloodline is to use the power of heaven and earth through the inheritance of blood essence. The blood essence must contain the imprint of a soul warrior. Ziming said, although your Dao sect's Dharma spells don't talk about this, the natal spirit tablet that can be refined with blood essence should also belong to this category. A drop of blood essence isn't much to you Dao sect cultivators, but to us soul warriors, it's incomparably important. A soul warrior can use countless methods to use blood essence to cast spells on another soul warrior, and even take the life of that soul warrior. Therefore, it is impossible for us, the soul warriors of Meng Mountains, to use our own blood essence to craft some natal spirit tablet and let others control our life and death. Actually, a simpler explanation would be that since the death of a Dao sect cultivator could cause the destruction of his natal spirit tablet, the destruction of his natal spirit tablet would definitely cause the death of a Dao sect cultivator. Your Dao sect's natal spirit tablet is the most important method that cultivation sects use to control their own disciples. It's not the concern for their own disciples that ordinary people think.
Let me say something unpleasant.
If my Meng Mountains were to attack your Dao sect's 3 kingdoms, we don't even need to fight to the death. As long as we can control your Jade Archive Palace, we can completely control all of your cultivators.
Hiss.
Hearing this, not only was Xiao Hua dumbfounded, even Fairy Hongxia and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. Xiao Hua even thought of the golden natal spirit tablet that he kept in the Jade Archive Palace. Dao sect cultivators, are like locusts in the mortal world, desperately devouring the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, using everything in the world for their own use. Moreover, they plunder by hook or by crook, not caring about the needs and nourishment of heaven and earth. Today's abnormal weather in Meng Mountains, I'm afraid it's the result of your Dao sect's 3 kingdoms ignoring the heavenly Dao, right? Ziming sighed. It's a pity that you cultivators don't know about it at all. Moreover, you're so arrogant, thinking that you're the orthodox sect. The people of the world are also short-sighted. When they see how powerful the Dao sect spells are, they naturally follow suit. Therefore, our soul cultivators have declined, and our Confucian cultivators have died out. At this point, Ziming saw that Xiao Hua and the others' expressions were not good. She smiled and said, "This is what Venerable Wu said on a normal day. I'm just listening. Now that I'm telling you, young Master Xiao, you may not necessarily take it seriously." He. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. Looking at Fairy Xianxia and the others who were also thinking about something, he didn't know how to answer. As they spoke, they walked out of the ancestral hall. With a glance, they saw the tall and sturdy Hitorigami standing on top of a boulder. The Hitorigami seemed to have received Venerable Wu's orders and didn't make a fuss. When it saw Xiao Mao, it roared and flew down from the boulder. The ground where its feet landed turned yellow. With a smile on his face, Xiao Mao stretched out his hand. The Hitorigami also stretched out its big hand. 2 fingers touched Xiao Mao's hand. Xiao Mao whispered a few words, and the Hitorigami laughed happily. Then, its body glowed red, and it flew into the sky again. The Hitorigami is very powerful. Unfortunately, it still can't control its own strength. Xiao Mao looked regretfully at the place where the Hitorigami was standing. There were already some fine grains of sand. He said, "Otherwise, with it following us, it could have saved us a lot of trouble. It's a pity that you can't bring it out of." Xiao Hua said casually, but stopped halfway. "Yes, why can't I bring it out of Million Meng Mountains?" "Yes, Million Meng Mountains is the Hitorigami's home. I won't let it leave. Moreover, if it goes to the cultivation world, who knows if it will attract the attention of nascent soul or spirit-severing stage seniors." Xiao Mao said with a smile. He then took out the jade scroll in his hand and immersed his divine sense in it. Xiao Hua raised his eyes and looked at the terrifying mountains on the left. He then looked at Fairy Xianxia and said, "This? I'm afraid this is where the earliest Huta stockade was located?" "Yes, it is." Ziming waited for a moment. Seeing that Fairy Xianxia didn't say anything, she slowly said, "According to the shaman canon, the earliest Huta stockade only had an ancestral temple. Moreover, the ancestral temple wasn't as big as it is now. Later it slowly expanded. The palaces and other things were built around the ancestral temple. When the back mountain was full. This was another large-scale construction in my previous life. Previously, I've said that the buildings in the front mountain were heavily influenced by Confucian cultivation. It's already different from the back mountain." Confucian cultivation, what should it look like? Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes. He thought of the turtle shell, the core, and the inscriptions on the armor. Outside the ancestral shrine, there were naturally guards standing guard. Ziming looked at the guards and gave a few orders. Then she whispered to Xiao Hua and the others, "This concubine's resting place is near the ancestral shrine. This concubine won't see you off." "Yes, Miss Ziming, please have some peace." Xiao Hua didn't dare to say more. "We'll also go back and meditate. When Elder Wu finishes dealing with the matters of Huta stockade, we'll meet again." "All right." Ziming smiled and was about to turn around. Fairy Xianxia said again, "Miss Ziming, you have to pay more attention to the matters of Huta stockade. After all, you're the next G-man. The task on your shoulders is very heavy. The people of Huta stockade are all depending on you." Ziming's heart ached. She knew what Fairy Xianxia wanted to say. She smiled bitterly. "Thank you, sister. I know what I'm doing." After saying that, she smiled at everyone. Then, she turned and walked along the wide mountain path towards the hall beside the ancestral temple. Her figure looked so lonely in the wind. "Sigh, let's go." Xiao Hua sighed. Although its G-man and the Huta stockade is above everyone else, the hardships involved can't be compared to the freedom of being a cultivator. "Why? Do you want to share the burden?" Fairy Xianxia asked with a smile that didn't look like a smile. Don't, please don't, Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand. This Xiao has a lazy personality. This kind of thing should be left to the ambitious. It's just sharing the burden. Why don't you try? Fairy Xianxia didn't give up. I'm very eager. Xiaohua's face turned serious. This Xiao is a cultivator. How can I get involved in the affairs of millions of soul cultivators in Meng Mountain? Besides, this Xiao is a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. If I want to share the burden, it's the affairs of my myriad Thunder Valley.
How can I split myself here?
Hee hee, Xiaohua. What's that talisman of yours?
It looks like a soul spell, right?
Fairy Xianxia laughed. Besides, didn't you lose that Dharma body of yours?
When you find it, let it come to Huta Stockade. Just treat it as if you're here. Isn't this the best of both worlds?
All right, speaking of this. Xiaohua didn't seem to hear her. He raised his eyebrows and asked curiously, Xianxia, don't you think it's strange?
Why can't we find Wuxia's soul?
I was the one who brought her corpse back with my own hands.
Besides, didn't you say that you buried her?
You buried her with your own hands.
How could she still be alive?
Fairy Xia's heart clenched. She nodded and said, That's right. Unless the one who died wasn't elder sister? Hearing that he had successfully changed the topic, Xiaohua's heart relaxed. He looked at Li Zongbao and said, I saw Wuxia's death with my own eyes. Besides, the corpse that I brought back was seen by the head of your Kai family. Everyone was certain that it was her.
How can it not be her?
Then, where did the problem go wrong? Fairy Xianxia scratched her head. Unless elder sister really isn't dead? But at that time, she was completely lifeless and suffered such heavy injuries. Until the time of the burial, this concubine had repeatedly probed but didn't find anything strange. If there was even a trace of warmth, this concubine wouldn't have. Senior brother Li, what do you think? Xiaohua turned to look at Li Zongbao and asked. Back to Luyang. This Majia wants to see it with my own eyes.
Li Zongbao raised his head.
His eyes were red as he said word by word. Previously this Majia didn't dare to admit it and didn't dare to face it. But now that Wuxia is still alive, this Majia has been enlightened. Since this Majia has her in my heart, I should admit it in front of the whole world.
This way, even if she died, she would be able to rest in peace.
Perhaps. She is waiting for this Majia to visit her.
Chapter 29:19.
This.
Xiaohua was slightly shocked. He was afraid that Li Zongbao had gone mad. He had seen Wuxia's death with his own eyes. She was really dead and could not be alive. Since the Netherworld Mirror could not find traces of Wuxia's soul, there must be something wrong with the Netherworld Mirror. Wasn't there a problem when he used it?
It must be because Li Zongbao and Fairy Xianxia used it that something happened. Yes, I am also in a hurry to go back and see my sister's body. Who knows, a miracle might really happen.
Fairy Xia's face was also filled with excitement.
Li Zongbao also bit his lips and said, Yes, since Ziming wants to revive Zai, if Wuxia is not dead, there is no reason why she can't be revived.
This.
Xiaohua smiled bitterly again. He looked at Xiao Mao, who was walking with his head down and seemed to be immersing his divine sense into the jade slip. He could not say anything. It seemed that only he, the culprit who broke the Netherworld Mirror, did not get anything from the Netherworld Mirror? Yes, what is that huge black silhouette? What is that series of sounds? Xiaohua was puzzled. Is it the Netherworld? Or the 9 Springs? Or the 10,000 Demon Realm? The Demon Realm? Xiaohua and the others returned to the quiet room with doubts in their hearts. However, this quiet room wasn't the enormous palace from before, and it was a small and exquisite room instead. Presently, only Xiaohua was seated cross-legged in this room. Thinking about how so many things had happened in just one day and one night after leaving the quiet room, Xiaohua was almost exhausted. Most of his mental energy was on the sounds of the green seal text. If it was not a matter of life and death, even if he had started dozens of days ago, or even decades ago, Xiaohua did not believe that he would have made the most crucial progress in such a short period of time. Therefore, Xiaohua sat cross-legged quietly. He did not think or do anything. He simply meditated, and in a moment, he entered a dream. Although Xiaohua was asleep, the primordial spirit in Qingxin heaven was still waving the soul strands and trying different sounds. Strands of green light were constantly produced, and strange sounds were constantly emitted. Similar to the situation in Qingxin heaven, in Xiaohua's dream, there were also green lights fluttering. The green seal script that was born in the white bone previously turned into butterflies that gracefully entered the dream. Of course, whatever you think about in the day, you will also have dreams. The emergence of the green seal script inexplicably stimulated the primordial spirit and the soul strands. From the earliest formless green seal script to the later green seal script gradually emerged in an orderly manner. It actually became a kind of faint music that reverberated throughout the entire clear spirit heaven. When it was deep into the night, the energy of the outer realm Yuan star broke free from the confinement of the sun star and shot out from the starry night, enveloping Xiaohua within it. After the appearance of the outer realm Yuan star force, about the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Elder Wu flashed out of the sky like a ghost. His starry eyes were even brighter in the night, and after strands of green light flashed, he had a strange expression on his face. That expression seemed to have some understanding, but it was also astonishment. This astonishment seemed to have more confusion than understanding. Elder Wu softly muttered a few inaudible words of shaman language, then slightly shook his head, and his figure slowly disappeared again. Dream. After sleeping for an unknown period of time, Xiaohua suddenly woke up. Cold sweat seeped out from his forehead, and all the green seal text in his dream came to an abrupt end. It was completely shattered by the inexplicable words of the pitch-black giant monster's outline. Sigh. Xiaohua looked left and right, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. He thought to himself, "Is this dream my family? Why do I care so much about it? But if it really wants to come, why is there no sign of it?" Humph. Thinking of this, Xiaohua sneered again. Since nameless identity is going to be revealed, then the person who sealed my Naiwan palace will definitely appear. My amnesia must be related to them. The day when the truth comes to light is gradually approaching. Unfortunately, my nameless is only at the early nascent soul stage. My Naiwan palace and middle Dantian are sealed so tightly. It's definitely not the work of a nascent soul cultivator. If it's not a spirit-severing cultivator, then it's a void refinement cultivator, or even a body fusion cultivator. Damn it, this won't do. If I meet them now, I can only be a fish on the chopping block, not a knife. I have to think of a way. Thinking of this, Xiaohua suddenly stared blankly, as if he thought of something. He forcefully slapped his forehead with his hand and said, "Damn it, how could I forget? When Wuxia died, she died a cold death. But when I was in Liu Yang's Kai family, didn't I use that strange willow branch to summon the soul? That broken willow branch is really strange. All the spiritual herbs in the space grow crazily, but this willow branch hasn't changed at all after so many years." Thinking of this, Xiaohua's mind entered the space, and from the edge of the yin-yang pool, he took out the willow branch again. Xiaohua's gaze swept over it, and he bitterly smiled, but he saw that the willow branch was still abnormally dry, and the dried surface was dotted with yellow spots, no different from before. Especially the 9th-grade willow leaf, it didn't increase or decrease, and even the withered yellow lines on the willow leaf didn't change at all. In the end, is this thing causing trouble again? Xiaohua lost confidence, but from the surface, this thing was just an ordinary willow branch. If it wasn't for the fact that it didn't change in Xiaohua's space, and if it wasn't for the fact that Xiaohua spent dozens of high-grade spirit stones to buy this treasure, Xiaohua would have thrown this willow branch away long ago, right? Maybe it's useful? Xiaohua's eyes turned a few times, and he secretly said, "This Ho-Tu village's Elder Wu is obviously an expert. His cultivation is simply unfathomable. Moreover, shamans have always been proficient in soul techniques. If this thing can protect Wuxia's soul, it's obviously one of the few powerful things in the world, even more powerful than the soul-falling lamp. Elder Wu should know. How about?" However, Xiaohua only had this thought, and he immediately extinguished it, and hurriedly sent the willow branch back into the space, and still stuck it in the yin-yang pool. There are many treasures in the world, and Xiaohua didn't know how many of them can protect the soul, but Xiaohua knew. Elder Wu calmly dealt with the dispute between Ji-Man and Zi-Ming, and easily cleared the Ho-Tu village of the demon invasion. That was because Elder Wu had absolute control over the Ho-Tu village. In this control, He wouldn't care too much about any unforeseen events. However, if this willow branch entered Elder Wu's eyes, and if it exceeded what Elder Wu could bear, would Elder Wu become greedy? Xiaohua boasted that he already had a lot of rare treasures, but when he saw an excellent magical treasure, his heart would still itch. Xiaohua himself was like this. What about others? Xiaohua couldn't guarantee that Elder Wu wouldn't make other moves. Forget it. This kind of treasure is related to life and death. It's better for this young master to know. Xiaohua thought to himself, and then raised his eyes to look outside the quiet room. At this moment, the quiet room had just lit up, as if another day had come. It's already been dozens of days, right? Elder Wu still hasn't come. I'm afraid the Ho-Tu village's crisis is really serious this time. Sigh, this devil dweller is really everywhere. I don't know if these demons are related to Yin Meng and the others. Suddenly, Xiaohua felt that the millions of Meng mountains blocking the northwest side of the Xiaoyu continent was really disgusting. But now, he felt that it was incomparably cute. If it weren't for the millions of Meng mountain soul cultivators, perhaps Zhang Qingxiao would have already been captured by Lord Ji Peng, right? I better hurry up and cultivate. When Xiaohua thought of Lord Ji Peng, his heart trembled again. He knew that this kind of cruel and merciless demon general would appear in front of him sooner or later. After such a long period of recovery, under the miraculous effect of the Sun Shroud art, Xiaohua's burned divine sense had recovered. Moreover, this divine sense had become even more tenacious, thick, and enormous. Although it couldn't be compared to the Buddhist sense, Xiaohua had a feeling that as long as he kept cultivating the Sun Shroud art and strengthening his mind, this divine sense would soon surpass the Buddhist sense. While sighing with emotion at the miraculous secret technique given by Jiuxia, Xiaohua once again erased Jiuxia's face from his mind, and sent his mind into the mysterious dark cloud. At this moment, the mysterious dark cloud was different from before. In the short period of time that Xiaohua had controlled the green seal text, some strange runes had appeared outside the mysterious dark cloud. These runes were faintly floating outside the dark cloud, appearing and disappearing. Every time a rune appeared, a faint green glow would flash. This green glow would pass from one rune to another, and then disappear along with the disappearance of the rune. When another rune appeared, the green light would appear again. Slowly, this green light ran through the entire surface of the mysterious dark cloud, and those strange runes also gradually covered the entire mysterious dark cloud. Xiaohua had always been interested in runes. Seeing that it was so strange, he had already focused his mind on these runes. However, these runes either suddenly disappeared when they came into contact with his mind, or they disappeared before his mind could even approach them. Xiaohua's mind was unable to capture them. When Xiaohua coincidentally encountered a newly formed rune, a kind of boundless feeling immediately came from that rune. Compared to this boundless feeling, Xiaohua's mind was like a grain of sand in the vast ocean, insignificant and undetectable. See, Xiaohua suddenly realized. This might be the heavenly pattern earth deed that protects the soul. Immediately, Xiaohua's greedy thoughts appeared again. Damn it, if I can comprehend this heavenly pattern earth deed, then how good would that be? Unfortunately, Xiaohua had only encountered it for a moment, and after that, he didn't have anything else. Even if he wanted to encounter it again, it was impossible. Opportunity. Xiaohua understood that it was impossible, and regretfully entered the mysterious dark cloud. The moment Xiaohua's mind entered, the heavenly pattern earth deed suddenly flashed outside the mysterious dark cloud, as if it wanted to resist. When it lightly touched Xiaohua's mind again, that flash was extinguished, and the heavenly pattern earth deed returned to its previous state of flickering. Chapter 29:20. Wow! Xiaohua had just entered the heaven ring of Qi when the originally cold and desolate heaven ring of Qi fluttered in all directions. Sounds that seemed to shake the heavens and earth constantly resounded in the heaven ring of Qi. The outlines of mountains and rivers could be faintly seen, and traces of clouds and rain also appeared in midair. The green seal script is divine, able to steal the essence of heaven and earth, causing changes in heaven and earth. The 12 great gods are able to move heaven and earth and weep ghosts and gods, as expected. Xiaohua exclaimed in amazement. He had always thought that the Dao Sect spells could reach the heavens. Although Ziming, Master Qin Qin, and the others had already explained the magical powers of soul spells, Xiaohua still felt that it was impossible. After all, he had only cultivated to the second day of the 9 heavens of spirit origin, far away from becoming a shaman. Even if he could comprehend the green seal script, how could he have the ability to reach the heavens? But everything in front of him was telling him that soul cultivation was really different from Dao cultivation. The pure green seal script had nothing to do with cultivation. At this moment, he really had the possibility of reaching the heavens. After entering the clear god sky, the deafening sounds became even louder. The entire clear god sky seemed to be in a state of chaos. Not only was Xiaohua's primordial spirit busy waving the soul strands to try to comprehend more green seal scripts, even the soul of the little white dragon was roaring like a dragon dancing in the 9 heavens. And what made Xiaohua the happiest was that the little white dragon and his primordial spirit were already close to the peak of the clear god sky. The waves of commotion caused the gloomy sky of the clear god sky to shake open little by little. One by one, the green seal scripts that seemed to have spirituality rushed into the sky from time to time, and there were even soul strands that had completely penetrated into the chaotic space. Good, Xiaohua was overjoyed and thought to himself. So the cultivation of the 9 heavens of spirit origin is not just a method of dancing, day, night, moon, and so on. Even if it's comprehending the green seal script, cultivating charms is also one of the methods. According to Xiaohua's knowledge, there should be 365 basic green seal characters. He had learned 3 when he was making sorcerer puppets, and he had acquired 36 from the Misty Clouds Martial School. There were 4 on White Bone's left hand bone. Adding the tens of green seal characters he had acquired earlier, he should have nearly 70 green seal characters. Recently, he had acquired another 100 green seal characters from the Sorcerer's Codex. Excluding the duplicates, he still had about 130 green seal characters. To use the moving clouds and summoning rain technique, only 36 characters were needed. These 36 characters were something that Xiaohua had just completely comprehended. Among these 36 characters, some were the green seal text of the clear spirit sky, some were the green seal text of the surrounding chi sky, and some were the green seal text of the surrounding chi sky. There were even a few that Xiaohua did not know which sky they were from. All of a sudden, Xiaohua had a strange feeling. The green seal text must be comprehended from the most basic level. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't be greedy. The 12 great gods used these 365 green seal characters to pass down the teachings of heaven and earth. Just now, in the surrounding chi sky, although I haven't fully comprehended the 50 green seal characters that belong to the surrounding chi sky, the entire surrounding chi sky already has the image of heaven and earth. What if I completely comprehend it? Thinking about this, Xiaohua forcefully suppressed his ecstasy. His primordial spirit began to slowly comprehend the first green seal character revealed in the Sorcerer's Codex. Sure enough, following the sound of the seemingly right but actually wrong green seal character, Xiaohua fell into the surrounding chi sky. An indescribable feeling entered his mind. A feeling of missing out on an opportunity. Dao is 1, 1 gives birth to 2, 2 gives birth to 3, 3 gives birth to all things. Dao gives birth to 2 extremes, 2 extremes give birth to 4 divisions, 4 divisions give birth to 8 trigrams, 8 trigrams give birth to 10,000 things, 10,000 things form heaven and earth. Damn it, now in this place of chaos, isn't Dao giving birth? Alas, that primordial spirit has already entered the clear spirit sky. Even if it comes back, it won't be able to. I've suffered a great loss. Xiaohua suddenly felt as if his soul had left his body. What should I do? Looking at some indescribable things gradually appearing in the surrounding chi sky, Xiaohua was extremely disappointed. That's right, this young master's primordial spirit can't come back, but there are other primordial spirits in other places. Thinking about this, Xiaohua no longer dared to hesitate. He hurriedly rushed his mind out of the mysterious dark clouds and immediately returned to the space. Within the space, the nascent soul that had previously comprehended cultivation methods was now exerting all its strength to wield the Dharma seal. Streams of Samadhi true fire were swimming up and down the 3-legged vermilion bird phoenix pattern furnace, similar to when Xiaohua first refined pills. Moreover, a faint medicinal fragrance had already gushed out from the pill furnace. Clearly, Xiaohua's primordial spirit could already refine the simplest Wu Tsong pill. If he had enough time, his primordial spirit could also refine high-grade pills such as the Peiyuan pill, Foundation Establishment pill, and so on. However, at this time, how could Xiaohua care about refining pills and refining tools? He hurriedly urged his primordial spirit out of the space and recklessly rushed into the mysterious dark clouds. Naturally, the heavenly pattern earth deed in the mysterious dark clouds also flashed with a green brilliance, allowing the primordial spirit to safely enter. Slowly comprehend it, Xiaohua's mind instructed. After Xiaohua's primordial spirit heard this, it very quietly sat in the heaven ring of qi. The indescribable thing in the heaven ring of qi also had a strange fluctuation that slowly spread to the primordial spirit. The primordial spirit formed bit by bit in the heaven ring of qi, and a kind of déjà vu feeling was born in the heaven ring of qi. Moreover, the dancing primordial spirit in the heaven ring of qi had also changed. It was completely dancing with soul strands. Each strand of soul strand was emitting an extremely simple and completely identical rhythm. A green seal character that Xiaohua had never comprehended before flashed with this brilliance and gradually appeared in the entire heaven ring of qi. However, this first green seal character didn't seem to be less difficult to form because Xiaohua was already able to use the cloud-traveling rain summoning talisman. Xiaohua's mind stayed in the heaven ring of qi for a long time. He only heard a rumbling sound. The entire heaven ring of qi was filled with green light, but the green seal character didn't appear smoothly. Forget it. This Tao begets one. I'm afraid it's not that simple. Let my primordial spirit slowly play with you. Xiaohua understood the difficulty of this green seal character and withdrew his mind from the heaven ring of qi. Then, Xiaohua placed his attention on Master Qin Qin's soul cultivation equipment refining technique. After all, Xiaohua had broken the spirit treasure nether passage mirror of Ho-Tu stronghold, which had a huge impact on Ziming. He also wanted to see if he could repair this nether passage mirror. However, the soul cultivation equipment refining technique was very different from the Dao sex equipment refining technique. Before Xiaohua could see any clues, a guard came to invite Xiaohua, Fairy Xianxia and the rest under the orders of Wu Lao. This time, the hall that Wu Lao was in was different from the one that Xiaohua had seen before. It was at the back of the mountain, beside the ancestral shrine. It was a hall that was somewhat similar to the Xianxia pavilion that G-Man was in. However, this hall did not look as elegant as the Xianxia pavilion. On the contrary, a kind of rough, simple and grand feeling was revealed through the white bones piled up and the round wood spliced together on the four walls. At this time, the sun shone through the huge window and shone on the hall. The light pillar that was 10 feet in radius enveloped a square chair made of white bones, and on that square chair sat the young Wu Lao. In the light shadow, Wu Lao's face was unusually bright, as if there was a layer of holy light emitting from his body. G-Man was dressed in slightly plain clothes and sat below Wu Lao. Opposite her sat Ziming, who had a trace of joy on his face. Xiaohua and the rest entered the hall and saw such a scene. A kind of solemnity arose spontaneously. A few of them did not dare to be negligent and quickly stepped forward to greet Wu Lao and G-Man. A trace of a smile appeared on Wu Lao's face as he raised his hand and said, "Little friends from the Dao sect, we have met dozens of days ago. During this period of time, because my Ho-Tu stronghold had some things to do, I have neglected you all. This old man apologizes." "We don't dare," Xiaohua hurriedly replied. "Wu Lao, the Ho-Tu stronghold's affairs are more important. We came from afar to disturb you, and also brought some trouble to your stronghold. The ones who should apologize should be us." "No matter," Wu Lao smiled and said. "This old man already knows everything. Those are mostly some small conflicts. The other thing is my Ho-Tu stronghold's chores. It's nothing. Moreover, you all came together with Ziming to exterminate the demons and capture their souls. In these dozens of days, based on what I obtained from the souls, I cleaned up the entire Ho-Tu stronghold and Shibai stronghold. There were about 2,000 soul warriors who were taken over by the demons. This is beyond this old man's estimation. If this is counted, it's all thanks to Taoist Xiao." Xiaohua hurriedly bowed and said, "Wu Lao is a senior. This Xiao has not yet reached the nascent soul stage, so this Xiao cannot be called Taoist Xiao. Wu Lao can just call this Xiao by his name." "Hee. Then this old man will call you little friend Xiao." Wu Lao smiled and said, "Today, I invited little friend Xiao and the rest to come over because I want to discuss something with you. Actually, even if this old man doesn't say it, I think little friend Xiao should know about it, right?" Xiaohua understood and nodded. If there are no accidents, This junior must have obtained the seed of millet from a deserted island outside the sea.
Indeed. Wu Lao also denied it.
He raised his head and looked at the dazzling sunlight and said, "To be honest, as Wu Lao, I can't leave Ho-Tu stronghold. But this old man has received the order of the Wu King to leave Ho-Tu stronghold and go to the Wu King's stronghold in the depths of Wu Meng. This old man wants to discuss with the 12 shaman strongholds, the descendants of the 12 great gods, about the drastic change of the weather in Meng Mountains." Xiaohua was a little curious why Wu Lao suddenly talked about the trip to the Wu King's stronghold, but he still smiled and listened with great interest. Wu Lao and Wu King of the 12 shaman strongholds, the 13 of us are helpless when faced with this difficult situation that Meng Mountains has not encountered for thousands of years.
We don't know how to deal with it.
Wu Lao continued, even when this old man arranged for his men to invade the sword domain, wanting to find a place to settle the people in the sword domain, I didn't get a good result. Some of the ideas and methods proposed by the other Wu Lao were also rejected by everyone. Of course, there are also some Wu Lao who talked about the descendant of the great god Shi Bai, who can affect the weather. They hoped that the Wu Lao of Shi Bai stronghold could use the power of his bloodline to summon clouds and summon rain. Perhaps it could alleviate the drought of Meng Mountains. Speaking up to here, Wu Lao glanced at Xiao Mao and said, "But according to Wu Lao of Shi Bai stronghold, the art of summoning clouds and summoning rain is an ancient talisman of Meng Mountains. Only ancient shamans who know the Green Seal script can control it. However, although the Green Seal script is the foundation of the cultivation of Meng Mountain soul spells, the progress is slow, and the price to pay is huge. After so many years, very few people have touched it."
Chapter 29-21.
Furthermore, this change in the weather is the power of heaven and earth. Even if someone used the power of great god Shi Bai's bloodline to control the weather, how could it be compared to the power of heaven and earth? The best way is to adapt to it and not resist it. Yes, this is what the Taoist sect always says, it's better to let it go. Therefore, we treated the millet seed as our main focus. However, the millet seed is the food of Meng Mountains zimming for thousands of years. How could it be made suitable for the millet seed to adapt to the weather overnight? We searched through the shaman canon and racked our brains, but we still couldn't find any ancient shaman art that could change all of this. At the very last moment, when he was at the end of his rope and had no way out, the shaman king was left with no other choice. Thus, he resorted to the mystic arts of Meng Mountains, gathered the blood essence of the descendants of the 12 great gods, and unleashed the art of divine connection. With the shaman king's divine connection art and the prayers of the 13 of us, the shaman king was finally able to communicate with heaven and earth and found the will of the great god. Under the will of the great god, the shaman king gave me the shaman king's order, ordering me to rush back to Hutu's stronghold and tell him that the fate of Meng Mountain depends on my Hutu stronghold.
Hiss.
Hearing this, Xiao Hua gasped, and Jiuxia's face immediately appeared in his mind. Wasn't this so-called divine connection art similar to Jiuxia's divination art? It could find out what he wanted to know from nothing? Old Wu ignored Xiao Hua's astonishment and continued. At first, I was surprised, but after seeing what I heard and saw on the way back, and seeing little friend Xiao in the ancestral temple, I immediately understood what the shaman king meant. The fate of Meng Mountain is really in little friend Zhao's hands. After saying this, old Wu touched his chest and took out a thumb-sized ring. The ring was completely transparent and had the shape of a crystal skull. The shaman king said that this is a gift for little friend Xiao. He asked little friend Xiao to visit Wu Meng when you have time. Perhaps something unexpected will happen. The shaman king also wants to thank little friend Xiao. After saying this, old Wu waved his hand, and the crystal skull slowly flew in front of Xiao Hua. Elder Wu, Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. Elder Wu, you didn't allow this junior to say anything and just went straight to the point. This junior really doesn't know how to respond. I don't mind giving you this seed. Perhaps it is really Hutu great deity who wants to save millions of people in Meng Mountains with the help of me. But I also want to do something with this seed. Of course, if this shaman king's decree can be completed, and I want to do it, I can agree to it now.
Alas.
Elder Wu sighed, seeming to know what Xiao Hua wanted to say, and he shook his head. The 12 main strongholds are a branch of their own, and they don't interfere with each other. Even though the shaman king commands the shaman king stronghold and controls the shaman king command token, he has never interfered with the internal affairs of the 12 main strongholds. I'm afraid that little friend Zhao's plan of borrowing the Witch King token won't work. When he spoke up to hear, Elder Wu stretched out his hand and said to Xiao Mao, "Give me the jade slip and allow me to take a look at your mother's appearance. Perhaps I'll know something."
Yes.
Facing the Elder Wu of Hutu's stronghold who could help him, Xiao Mao didn't dare to be negligent. He quickly took out the jade slip and gave it to Elder Wu. Elder Wu seemed to have divine sense. He took the jade slip and gave it a look, then gave it to Ji-Man. Looking at Elder Wu's frowning face, Xiao Mao's heart skipped a beat. When Ji-Man saw the jade slip and shook her head at Elder Wu, Xiao Mao's heart turned cold. Ji-Man didn't give the jade slip back to Xiao Mao. Instead, she hesitated for a moment, then gave it to Zi Ming. Zi Ming had a surprised look on her face, but she still took it. But after she looked at it, she was also at a loss. "Xiao Mao," Elder Wu spoke, "I should have seen Ji-Man of Shibai stronghold, and those who are qualified to inherit Ji-Man's position. But your mother's appearance is really unfamiliar to me. I'm sure I've never seen her before. And since Ji-Man and Zi Ming have never seen her before, I think she might not be a citizen of Shibai stronghold." Elder Wu Zi Ming returned the jade slip to Xiao Mao and said in confusion, "If Xiao Mao's mother isn't a citizen of Shibai stronghold, how can Xiao Mao have the bloodline of Shibai great god? If my mother doesn't have the qualifications to inherit Ji-Man's position, then why would Fu Man of Shibai stronghold attack Xiao Mao?"
What does your father look like?
Ji-Man suddenly asked. "This." Xiao Mao was a little embarrassed. "Junior's memory of my father is even more vague, and I can't remember it all.
If there's the netherworld mirror." At this point, Xiao Mao immediately stopped talking. He understood that he had touched a sore spot.
"Right, Elder Wu. Can the netherworld mirror be repaired? Where are its remains?"
Hearing this, Xiao Hua knew that he had to face it, so he asked.
"Compared to the lives of my Ho-Tu stronghold citizens, the netherworld mirror is nothing.
Little friend Xiao, you don't have to worry about it."
Elder Wu waved his hand and said. Xiao Hua said again, "If the netherworld mirror can be repaired, Junior's heart can be at ease." "I'm afraid it's not possible." Elder Wu smiled bitterly. "I've seen it. It was the backlash of the netherworld's power. It can't be repaired without a great divine ability."
"I see."
Xiao Hua thought for a moment, then said frankly, "If Meng Mountains can't be repaired, why don't you give Junior the netherworld mirror's remains and the refining method? Since it's Junior's fault, Junior will do his best to repair it." Elder Wu raised his eyebrows and glanced at Ji-Man. Ji-Man's eyes revealed a thoughtful expression. Then he nodded slightly.
"Good."
Elder Wu nodded. "Since little friend has such a heart, how can I not fulfill it?" After that, Elder Wu passed down the order, and a moment later, a guard brought in a bone. Xiao Hua took a look at it and kept it. Little did he know that when Xiao Hua took a look at it, Xiao Mao's face revealed a surprised expression, while Elder Wu and Ji-Man didn't have any strange expressions. Seeing Xiao Hua keep the bone, Zi Ming took the opportunity and said, "Elder Wu, from what this boy saw, Xiao Mao's father looks very similar to Xiao Mao."
"Why?"
Elder Wu didn't say anything, but Xiao Mao felt strange. "Young Master Xiao, don't forget, you said it yourself, you were attacked by Fu Man of Shibai village. If he didn't know your father and saw that you looked very similar to your father, how could he kill you before you found Shibai village?" Zi Ming said indifferently.
"But,"
Xiao Mao argued, "we are mortal enemies with Yi Yu, and we've already seen him at Flowing Cloud Lake."
"Io, that's not right."
At this point, Xiao Mao came to a realization, and said anxiously, "Junior always thought that Yi Yu wanted to kill us because we were opponents in the Great War of Dao Sword. Moreover, he knew of Junior's actions at Bailu village, so he came to kill us. Junior even thought that his target was my big brother." "Yes, Xiao Mao, you don't have to say any more." Elder Wu heard and nodded. "If Yi Yu didn't know that you're your father's boy, why would he notice your actions at Bailu village? Why would he team up with others to kill you? He must have seen you at Flowing Cloud Lake long ago."
"Then,
Senior, have you seen this Junior's father?" Xiao Mao probed.
no."
Elder Wu and Ji-Man both shook their heads. However, Elder Wu smiled and said, "That's not a problem. In about 10 days, it's time for Zi Ming to light the soul lamp. Elder Wu from the other 10 villages won't come, but Elder Wu from Shibai village will definitely come, and I'll know when I ask him.
Yes, thank you, Elder Wu.
Xiao Mao's cold heart became lively again. Beside him, Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. His seed was originally reserved for Xiao Mao as a trump card, but Xiao Mao was dismissed by Elder Wu with a few words, so what was the point of keeping his seed?
Forget it.
Xiao Hua stretched out his hand and took the crystal skull's ring in his hand. Since Elder Wu has resolved this junior's worries, this junior has nothing to say. Hee, little friend Xiao, Shibai village is Shibai village, and Huta village is Huta village. I can only be the master of Huta village, and I have no right to interfere with the matters of Shibai village. Elder Wu smiled and said, I can only promise Xiao Mao to help him ask. As for how Elder Wu from Shibai village will answer, I can't make any decisions.
Elder Wu, you only need to do your best.
Xiao Hua nodded. Your little finger is thicker than our waists, right?
Hee.
Elder Wu smiled and didn't say anything. Elder Wu, Junior has a question.
Li Zongbao, who had been silent all this time, said, Speak. Elder Wu replied faintly.
Although his tone sounded similar to Xiao Hua and the others, Li Zongbao understood that there was a lack of friendliness in his voice. Even when compared to the conversation between Elder Wu and Xiao Mao just now, it was still very different. However, Li Zongbao didn't feel any dissatisfaction in his heart. He said respectfully, Junior just wants to ask, if the netherworld mirror can't see the person in Junior's heart, does that mean that person is definitely still alive?
Elder Wu looked at Li Zongbao and seemed to be thinking about something.
He then asked, if that's the case, are you sure that person is definitely dead?
That's right. Junior is sure.
Li Zongbao nodded.
Then, what do you think is death and what is life?
Elder Wu asked again. This time, Li Zongbao was at a loss for words. He opened his mouth but didn't know how to answer.
That's right. What is life and what is death?
Although he had experienced the great battle of Dao Sword, experienced many life and death situations, and killed many swordsmen, if he really had to say the true meaning of life and death, how could he say it?
Reporting to Elder.
Fairy Xianxia quickly bowed and said, It's like this. You don't have to say more.
I already know about this.
Elder Wu's tone was still indifferent, but it was still unquestionable.
Yes.
Fairy Xianxia quickly shut her mouth. Your Dao sect often says that the Dao of life and death is number one. Without life and death, there is no Dao. Elder Wu looked at Li Zongbao, who was in a daze, and said, Its mystery is deep in the Dao of heaven. Even among the 12 great gods of Meng Mountain, perhaps only I, the great god Hutu, can understand a thing or two about it. Not to mention you, even I, who have studied the art of souls and the Dao of souls for many years, find it difficult to explain its mystery.
Chapter 29-22.
However, if we simply talk about life and death, then a human can be divided into two parts. One is the 3 souls and 6 spirits cultivated by the people of Meng Mountain, and the other is the fleshly body cultivated by the Taoist or sword cultivators. The fleshly body is further divided into blood vessels, body, meridians, and so on. If a person's soul is the sky, then the fleshly body is the earth. No matter if it's the sky or the earth, neither can be missing. Without the fleshly body, the soul has no place to reside, and without the soul, the fleshly body becomes an empty shell, and can't be considered a human. The soul is extremely important, and as long as one's soul or spirit is damaged or lost, the person will no longer be the same person. Even if he is alive, what's the difference between that and death? But if the fleshly body is gone, and the 3 souls and 6 spirits are left in the world, then even if he dies, he can be reborn with an excellent fleshly body. What's the difference between that and being alive? Senior Wu's words were simple, and Li Zongbao might not be unaware of it, but he was still very respectful. But when he heard Senior Wu's words, he couldn't hold back the fire in his heart and said anxiously, Then, Wuxia she. As for her situation, this old man has never seen it, so naturally I can't jump to conclusions. Although Senior Wu didn't say anything, there was a slight dissatisfaction on his face, seemingly because he was interrupted by Li Zongbao. He said, But according to this old man's knowledge, although the person you're talking about has fallen, because of a coincidence, her soul didn't fall into the netherworld. That's why the netherworld mirror can't use the power of her soul to communicate with the netherworld. That's why you can't see what you want to see. There's no reason why I can't see the reincarnation? Li Zongbao was delighted and asked again. A person leaves his name when he passes by, and a goose leaves its sound when it passes by. The netherworld mirror can also use the power of a remnant soul to reveal a trace of information about the netherworld. Your situation only means that your soul didn't enter the netherworld. Senior Wu waved his hand and didn't say anything else. Sigh. Senior brother Li. Xiao Hua sighed at the side and said to himself, I've seen people lose a watermelon for a sesame seed, but I've never seen someone as blind as you. The way of life and death, the leader of the 3,000 great ways. Why don't you wait for Venerable Wu to finish speaking before mentioning Wuxia? It's just a short while. Can you not be so anxious? Xiao Hua had been listening attentively to Elder Wu's analysis of the way of life and death. But who would have thought that he would be interrupted by Li Zongbao before he could even begin? How could he not sigh? However, Xiao Hua understood that compared to the grand Tao of life and death, Wuxia's life and death seemed to be more important in Li Zongbao's eyes, right? Seeing that Elder Wu was no longer interested in dissecting, Xiao Hua could only probe. In that case, that person's soul is either incomplete or lost. It's impossible for a soul or a spirit to flow into the netherworld. Elder Wu couldn't not answer Xiao Hua's question, but he nodded and said, Indeed. Even if there was a soul in the netherworld, the nether passage mirror would still be able to reveal a trace of it. Therefore, the soul of the person you speak of is either wandering the world, or it was captured by someone else, and used to craft a soul armament. Li Zongbao's expression changed when he heard this. He turned to look at Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua was also shocked when he heard this. He rolled his eyes and smiled. The possibility of the soul being captured by someone else is not high. To tell you the truth, when that person died, this junior was beside him, and the corpse was also sent back to his hometown by this junior. No one had seen the corpse in between. Therefore, this soul could only be wandering the world. But here comes the question. Why didn't this person's soul return to the netherworld? Instead, it's wandering the world? Xiao Hua instantly thought of little cabbage Huang Yi. Could it be that Wuxia has a ghost cultivation technique? She also made little cabbage? How can this old man answer this? Elder Wu shook his head. After all, this is little friend Zhao's situation. I'm afraid only little friend Xiao can answer this, right? That's right. Xianxia, does Wuxia know ghost cultivation techniques? Xiao Hua originally wanted to transmit his voice, but after thinking about it, he opened his mouth and asked. Ghost cultivation? Fairy Xianxia was stunned and shook her head slightly. Elder sister and I cultivate the same cultivation technique, but I've never heard of her having such a technique. Furthermore, my Kai family has never had such a legacy. Then that's strange. Although Xiao Hua's face was bewildered, in his heart, he had already linked Wuxia's strangeness with the willow branch. Coincidentally, Ziming, who was at the side, opened his mouth again. Elder Wu, that day when young Master Li and elder sister Xianxia used the netherworld mirror, there was a trace of green light. Although it was very similar to the soul not being in the netherworld, but Boy felt that there was something different. As for what the difference was, Boy also did not know. This was also later when he reported to Elder Wu. Boy then realized it. The sunlight on Elder Wu's face gradually faded, and his hands were placed on his knees again. His index and middle fingers were trembling rhythmically, as if he was thinking about something. After a moment, he looked at Xiao Hua again and said word by word, Actually, there is still a possibility. Of course. This is only a possibility. Xiao Hua's heart trembled and hurriedly asked, Senior, please speak. The netherworld mirror receives the user's thoughts and establishes a connection with the soul in the netherworld, using the power of the soul to reveal a trace of the situation in the netherworld. The flickering green light in the netherworld is emitted by the soul treasure itself, but there should be a difference between the netherworld without a soul and the netherworld with a soul that is extremely faint. But as for what the difference is, this old man also does not know. According to Zi Ming, that person's soul could have just arrived in the netherworld and immediately left the netherworld. Why did it leave? Perhaps there was an almighty person who used a great divine ability to pull the soul out of the netherworld. Elder Wu said somewhat unconfidently, Of course, this great divine ability in my Meng Mountain is impossible. Even the Shaman King does not have this great divine ability. Furthermore, this old man is not looking down on the cultivators of your Tao sect. Even if they have reached the tribulation stage and Mahayana stage, it is impossible for them to have this level of magical power. Therefore, this old man did not explain it earlier. After all, this is the only possibility. Xiao Hua was even more delighted, and hurriedly asked, "Is it possible that there is such a magical item? It can pull that person's soul out of the netherworld?"
Hee, little friend Xiao. How can a magical item be formed? Furthermore, how can such a divine ability be formed by the body?
The divine ability that this old man is talking about naturally requires the help of other objects to be formed. As for the treasures of my Meng Mountain's Netherism, or your Tao sect's capital spiritual treasure, I'm afraid they can't do it, right?
Elder Wu said with a smile. Capital spiritual treasure can't do it?
Xiao Hua was stunned.
Little friend Xiao, what do you think?
That is the power of the netherworld, the netherworld that transcends all worldly powers. If a simple capital spiritual treasure and a Mahayana stage cultivator can challenge the power of the netherworld, then wouldn't the 6 paths of reincarnation have long been in chaos?
Elder Wu sneered.
But at this point, Elder Wu's finger moved slightly, and he said, "Of course, if this person has the power to resist the power of the netherworld and a special
capital spiritual treasure, perhaps he can achieve it without any cultivation base?"
What is the power to resist the power of the netherworld?
What is a special capital spiritual treasure?
Xiao Hua began to get to the bottom of this. The power of the netherworld is naturally the power of death. If he has the power of life, he can naturally resist the power of the netherworld. Elder Wu said with a smile, "However, I don't know what a special capital spiritual treasure is. But I have a special soul treasure in my shaman stockade that can have this effect."
Soul falling lamp. Xiao Hua immediately understood. Yes. Didn't Ziming always think about how to revive Ziyi?
Yes, Elder Wu looked at Ziming affectionately and said, "Legend has it that the soul-falling lamp can fall a soul, and can also bring it back.
But no one knows how to use it." Ziming's face turned pale, and he lowered his head slightly.
The power of life, the third gold tribulation, the power of thunder and lightning.
Xiao Hua was enlightened.
After beating around the bush for so long, Xiao Hua finally understood that this willow branch was probably an extremely powerful soul treasure. And he could attract thunder.
"Io, that's not right."
Thinking of this, Xiao Hua was puzzled again. "When I was in the Kai family, I hadn't joined the Imperial Thunder sect, so I didn't know how to control thunder."
"Sigh, I still don't understand. It seems like the truth won't come to light."
Xiao Hua understood that he couldn't ask any more. If he said too much, even if he didn't say anything about the willow branch, Elder Wu would be able to guess it. Maybe. There was a powerful person related to the Kai family in Luyang that day, who pulled Wuxia's soul out from the netherworld? Xiao Hua looked at Li Zongbao, then at Fairy Hongxia and said softly, "But our cultivation is shallow so we can't see it." Unfortunately, Elder Wu immediately dispelled their thoughts. Such a powerful person has long surpassed your Tao sect's so-called Mahayana realm.
How could they appear in the country of Xi?
Moreover, if such a powerful person took action, would you still be able to find my Ho-Tu stockade? Sigh, yes, if there was such a powerful person who surpassed the Mahayana realm, how could Kai Wuxia be buried?
Everything now is just a guess. You should go back and take a look.
Elder Wu suggested, even if the soul is left behind and the body is gone, it's still Gui Li. Yes, Junior understands. Xiao Hua bowed. We thank Elder Wu for your guidance.
It's nothing.
Elder Wu raised his hand. You don't practice soul arts, so you don't know the mystery of the soul, and don't know the 9 heavens of spirit origin. This old man immersed himself in it, so I have some understanding. At this point, a smile appeared on Elder Wu's face, and he asked, I know I shouldn't ask, but from what G-Man said, that day when you resisted the soul lock, there was a green seal script in your soul. Little friend Xiao, what level of heaven has your soul cultivation reached? Oh, Xiao Hua scratched his head and said embarrassedly, Junior obtained the cloud and rain technique from the Misty Cloud sect, and blindly fumbled about. Now I have cultivated to the clear spirit heaven. I've made a fool of myself.
Hee, not bad.
Elder Wu laughed. To be able to cultivate to the clear spirit heaven is already rare and commendable. Many cultivators who change their cultivation to spirit warrior, even if they spend many years, they are still lingering in the ring of spirit heaven. Very few people enter the bright sky and clear sky. Little friend Xiao seems to have a chance to break through. You're tuning in to the Wisdom Diary YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.